and harassed while on the campaign trail in Mayo over the weekend. He says Friday's election will give people a chance to have their say in a democratic and fair manner.
I do think there's a toxicity in politics and public life that is being fuelled by a small number of people. I don't think it should be ignored. I think it should be called out. It's why I bristle when people talk about protest, because some things are protest and some things are thuggery, and I understand the difference, and so do most people in this country, and we should never allow the two be conflated.
A man has been charged in connection with a public order incident in Letterkenny on Sunday night. Garda attended the scene at around 11:05 in the Glencar area. A man in his 20s was arrested. He's due to appear before a sitting of Letterkenny District Court at a later date. Investigations are continuing into a knife attack in Derry. A man in his 20s is reported to have been assaulted in the Ralston Avenue, Hernway area of the city at around 2:20am on Sunday. He was treated at the scene by the Northern Ireland Ambulance Service before being transferred to hospital. As part of inquiries, it was established that a second man in his 40s was also injured. A 52-year-old man was arrested in connection with the incident. He has since been released on bail to allow for further inquiries. Police are appealing to anyone with information to come forward. And a baby goat trapped at the top of a castle in Greencastle for 4 nights has been successfully rescued. The alarm was raised by members of the local community over the weekend. The goat was yesterday rescued in a joint operation conducted by the Donegal Mountain Rescue Team and the ISPCA. Animals in Need Donegal confirmed that the goat has a suspected fractured back leg and is receiving veterinary treatment. Finally, for weather, scattered outbreaks of rain and drizzle and mist will clear this morning with sunshine and a scattering of showers following. Highest temperatures today of 12 to 15 degrees. That's all from Highland Radio News for now. We'll be back with news again at 10 o'clock. Until then, good morning.
You know what it's like when your mate sends you a pic of a dress she likes and you think, wait a minute, I would look so good in this. Well, Samsung's Galaxy S23 FE can help. Just draw a circle around the dress and circle to search with Google will help you find it. Sorry, Jen, it's not your colour. And send.
Incredible AI. Now on more Galaxy devices than ever. Buy a Galaxy S23 FE today at Samsung.com.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio.
And a very good morning to you. This is the 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio. It's Donal with you until 12 noon today. We have a lot to get through. We have our Community Garda information slot, of course, shortly after the 10 o'clock news this morning. Garda and Maguire joining us in studio today. All the usual features. We'll be looking at your gardening questions a bit later on in the third hour of the show. But don't forget, much as we want to talk about the issues that we've identified, what we want to talk about even more are the issues that you identify. So you can contact us, text or WhatsApp us on 086 60 25,000. Call us on 074 91 25,000. Caroline Orr taking your calls and producing. Shannon Wilkin taking your calls as well this morning. And if you're outside of the Donegal Delling area, you can get us on 00353 7491 25342. You can use email, of course. It's comments at highlandradio.com. We're Highland Hub on Facebook. We're at Highland Radio on Twitter, or X as we have to call it now. And of course you can watch the show unfold live on our Facebook pages, also on our YouTube channel Highland Radio Ireland. So if you have a smart screen or you're in a position where you can watch it on the screen on your device, then feel free to do so by all means. You'll be able to see our guests in studio, see anyone joining us via Zoom as well. The downside is you have to look at me from time to time, but the payback is worth it, trust me. We're going to start with the newspapers this morning and looking at the Irish Independent. The main headline revealed towns and areas where crime has surged. A surge in theft and criminal damage offences last year pushed up crime rates at 76 Garda stations to their highest level in a decade. Now, when you look at the inside of the paper, the areas where the highest crime rates were peaking included Waterford, Tralee, Wexford, Trim, Athlone, Gorey and Dungarvan. No stations in Donegal in that particular list. But if you look at the... I beg your pardon. No, whoops, my fault. No, right. If you look at the areas where they're experiencing a rise in public order offences, if you look at Letterkenny over the course of the past years, Letterkenny has double the national average of public order offences, as does Bundoran in Donegal as well. So Letterkenny and Bundoran, serious public order issues there. And a very comprehensive look down through all the various crimes on the on that article in the Independent as well. Dangerous or negligent acts, including drug driving and drink driving. Donegal Town, one of the areas that's being highlighted there, with an increase in crimes. And you can read that story in your Irish Independent this morning, should you so choose. Also, Farming Independent this morning, the main headline, farming, we need to stop farmers leaving the land, says McConalogue. That's a story there. And a picture on the front of Teresa Hohe, who first fostered a child when her first child was 18 months old. Teresa has now fostered 130 children. Also, an interesting story, airlines to be fined €5,000 per undocumented passenger. Airlines face fines of up to €5,000 per undocumented passengers as the government tries to clamp down on immigration. That proposal from Justice Minister Helen McEntee among a number that she is due to bring before the Cabinet this week. Irish Times this morning, you've been hearing this with Michaela on the news as well. The RSA is calling for speeding and phone use points to double. A sharp increase in driving penalties seen as an emergency measure to save lives. Learner drivers on third or subsequent permits may soon face stricter rules. The story there on the front of the Irish Times. Also, most schools rely on cash reserves to cover basic costs. Schools cut back on learning resources and raise parent contributions to fill gaps. This is an issue in primary schools right across the country. That's according to the Catholic Primary School Management Association, which supports around 85% of all primary schools in the state. They found more than 70% of schools have run a deficit over the past 12 months. Due to a shortfall in grant funding to cover expenses such as light, heat and transport. And we've seen this discussed here in Donegal, a number of schools saying that they've been given increased pressure because of pupil numbers, including refugee children who are coming in and they're being sent to the school. But even though they're getting increased numbers over the course of the year as a result of government policy, they're not getting increased capitation funding because the rule states that you have to get your capitation based on your enrolment as of the end of September, and that is inflexible, that is set in stone. So basically the rules governing who you can take in can change dependent on the need of the state, but the rules governing your actual funding are absolutely rigid and cannot be changed, and there is, it would appear, an inherent unfairness in that. Irish Daily Mail this morning, again, an interesting story. Garda to target high-risk polling stations. Heightened policing at counts centres over fears they could be hit by protests. Garda are carrying out security assessments of election counts and polling centres ahead of this weekend's voting amid fears the protests could threaten democracy after widely condemned scenes in Westport in Mayo on Sunday where the Taoiseach was targeted by protesters. Garda management have been putting contingency plans in place to protect the election process and protect the staff and politicians as well as members of the public. European and local elections look set to be dominated by security concerns, according to the Mail. Now, and this is maybe no harm to mention at this point, we do have 5 count centres across Donegal for the local elections, and Highland Radio will be present in every single one of them. And our aim, as we have done in the past, is to bring you every count live, every result live, and speak to every winning and losing candidate live as the story unfolds throughout the 5 count centres. We have 7 electoral areas. We have 5 count centres. The Letterkenny and Milford votes are being counted at the Ora Letter Centre in Letterkenny. The Lifford Stranorder votes are being counted at the Finn Valley Centre in Stranorder. The Inishowen North and South, that's Buncrana and Carndonagh, both being counted at Carndonagh Community School in Carn. And the Donegal electoral area votes being counted at the John Bosco Centre in Donegal Town. And we will be present, as we say, at all of those over the course of the weekend. The way it's going to work at the weekend is on Saturday. All the ballots are being brought to Ora in Letterkenny. They're being sorted with European and local papers being sorted and separated and then bound, and then the European votes go to the European Count Centre in Galway. The local votes will then be brought under Garda escort to the local count centres. The local counts will then get underway on Sunday morning, so there won't be any local counting as we understand it on Saturday. Local counts get underway on Sunday morning. And we should have fairly good tallies on the Saturday afternoon, because obviously the votes are being sorted. The tally teams will be in force, as will we. And there should be some very good tallies and early indications of first counts coming through from those tallies on Saturday. So we will have an initial indication of where things are going on the Saturday, and we may be able to give you some very loose tallies for European votes coming from Donegal as well. Now, of course, the European votes, you're counting in areas from Donegal right down to Tipperary. I mean, it's half the country, basically. Midlands Northwest effectively is half the country. So the Donegal tallies won't tell us. It'll tell us what the Donegal sort of trends are, and that'll be interesting. But obviously, when they're then married with polling centres from right down the country as far as Tipperary, it'll start telling a very different picture. But it'll be interesting to see what transpires at the weekend. But that's a very long-winded way of telling you that if you want to know how things are going in the local elections, just come into Highland Radio on Saturday morning and pretty much stay here for the weekend. Greg will be anchoring from the Ora Leisure Centre over the course of the weekend, and trust me, as every story breaks, we will be there to cover it. Let's move to the Red Tops. Irish Sun this morning, the main story, we'll buy 2FM. Classic Hits Radio is primed to make a €10 million bid to buy and save embattled 2FM, according to the Irish Sun. Classic Chief Kevin Brannigan has written to the RTE boss Kevin Backhurst and the Media Minister Catherine Martin to advise them of the cash offer. The purchase could see recently departed DJs Duran Garahy, the two Johnnies and Jennifer Zamparelli brought back to 2FM slots. Now, that's an interesting one. I don't know if that's actually got to go through the Dáil, if a decoupling of 2FM and its privatisation from RTE, if that can just be done by ministerial order, or if it actually has to go through the Dáil. I'm not actually sure what the process there is. I must look into that at some point. But the 2FM to be sold, I mean, that rumour's been doing the rounds for ages, so we will see if anything comes of that. Irish Daily Star this morning, accused cruise killer vows, I'll fight for 20 years to clear my name. Shocked by Italy guilty verdict over wife's ship murder, Daniel Belling has vowed to fight for 2 decades to overturn his conviction in Italy for killing his wife while on a cruise. The German national, who lives in Ireland, told the papers it could be 10 or 20 years. I think it could take longer. And there's more in the inside of the paper. Now, I'm not sure exactly how this, he's been convicted in absentia, as it were. He is still here. He insists he is innocent, and he's putting together this claim. Whether he can be extradited to Italy to serve a sentence or how that works, I'm not sure. We'll have to look into that a bit further. But at present, Mr. Belling is in Ireland. Front of the Irish Daily Mirror this morning, it's the same story. Belling conviction, about 20 years to clear my name. And the interesting thing is the Mirror claims it as an exclusive, and it's on the Irish Daily Star as well. So go figure. Also on the inside of the Irish Daily Mirror this morning, free contraception expanded to aged 25. The free contraception scheme is being expanded to include women aged 32 to 35. The expansion kicks in on the 1st of July. Almost 2,500 GPs and 2,050 pharmacies across Ireland are providing services. Also inside the Daily Mirror today, the Office of the President will spend up to €125,000 hiring photographers to cover events at Áras an Uachtaráin over the next 2 years. Current tenders are currently being sought for a contract to supply agency photography services that will require one photographer to be provided to cover engagements and several for important events. The successful contractor may also be required to cover certain events being attended by President Michael D. Higgins. That's on the inside of the Daily Mirror. Right, this is the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. As we said, you can text or WhatsApp us on 086 60 25,000. Call us on 074 91 25,000 or 00353 74 91 25,000, depending on your location. Carolyn and Shannon taking your calls. And you can use social media as well to get in touch. We'll take a short break and we're back after these.
Papers are courtesy of Kelly's Centra and Diner, Mountaintop Letterkenny, winner of Best Family Dining at the Highland Radio Hospitality Awards.
Drumhallah House Rathmullen Wedding Open Day this Sunday 12 to 4 p.m. Experience once in a lifetime luxury and beautiful surroundings at Drumhallah House, proud sponsors of today's show.
Boost your brain function with Remind supplements this May. Visit Healthwise pharmacies for the innovative Life Meter test. In just 1 minute, measure your carotenoid levels from a simple fingertip scan. Understanding your diet can help you take charge of your brain health. Remind's blend of carotenoids and omega-3 fatty acids supports normal brain function. Make an appointment today at Ballyreen and Dunlow Healthwise pharmacies. Take the first step towards a healthier brain with Remind.
Every Audi is designed with you in mind. From the fully charged electric driving of the all-new Audi Q6 e-tron to the hybrid petrol and diesel engines of the Audi A3 Sportback and A6 Saloon. Because how you drive is very much a personal choice. And of course, with every Audi, that choice is never a compromise. Book your test drive of the 242 range at your local Audi dealer. Audi. Vorsprung durch Technik.
You might be surprised by the working family payment. For many working parents, covering the everyday costs of family life can be a stretch. But there's some good news. The working family payment is money the government pays to working parents, depending on their level of income and how many children they have. To find out if you qualify, visit gov.ie/WFP. A Government of Ireland initiative brought to you by the Department of Social Protection.
The Inishowen Vintage Weekend kicks off this Friday night in the marquee Carrickfield Moville with a fantastic ABBA tribute band Waterloo on stage at 10, followed by an 80s disco. Doors open at 8 p.m. with a late bar. This ad is sponsored by Hannon Green. For all your insurance needs, we have you covered.
Coming this year to Dublin for the very first time. 71 shows completely sold out. Hamilton at the Bord Gáis Energy Theatre. Experience the revolutionary musical that's taken the world by storm. Witness history come alive with electrifying performances and unforgettable music with a modern twist. Book your place now on the outlet at highlandradio.com or call us on 074 91 25000. Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com.
The 9 to Noon Show with Drumhalla House Rathmullen, home to the most idyllic wedding setting with picture-perfect views. Wedding open day this Sunday from 12 to 4 p.m.
No matter how many elections you have behind you,
or if you have your first election just ahead of you, every new election is the most important one yet.
That is the beauty of democracy in Europe.
European elections, 7 June. Use your vote, or others will decide for you.
1984 saw the launch of the Macintosh, the first untethered spacewalk, Maradona's world record transfer fee, and a small car with a big personality met the world for the first time. The Seat Ibiza is 40 years young. To celebrate, Seat introduces the special edition Ibiza with a range of style and design features to make it even better. And not to be outdone, there's also a limited edition Arona to stir the senses. The limited edition Seat Ibiza and Arona. Discover our latest offers at DMG Motors Donegal Town.
Get ready, Letterkenny. Extreme Fun Fair is rolling into town from Saturday, June 8th to Sunday, June 16th. Experience the thrill of Ireland's largest travelling roller coaster, the Batman, and take in breathtaking views on a real Ferris wheel at over 30 metres high. We've got Europe's top rides, including the Freestyle 360, plus family favourites like bumper cars, waltzers, and more. Don't miss out on the fun. Visit Extreme Fun Fair online for discounts and event info. Extreme Fun Fair at Kiltoy Roundabout, Letterkenny from June 8th to 16th.
As part of National Food Waste Recycling Week, Donegal County Council, in partnership with Bryson Recycling and EnviroGrind Limited, will be having free compost giveaway events. Householders can collect free compost made from food and garden waste. Food waste recycling starter packs will also be available to support the use of the food waste recycling bin. Compost giveaway days take place on Tuesday, 4th of June, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. at Letterkenny Recycling Centre. 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. at Dunlow Recycling Centre. Wednesday, 5th of June, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. in Carndonagh Recycling Centre. And 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. in Milford Recycling Centre. Thursday, 6th of June, 10:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Lahey Recycling Centre. And 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. at Stranala Recycling Centre. Householders should bring their own bags or container to collect the compost. Compost available while stocks last.
This is the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. I want to say a very good morning to those who are watching us via our Facebook pages and YouTube. Paul, Audrey, Kevin, Anita, Mary and Audrey. Good morning to all of you. A special good morning to Anita, who is in the Cayman Islands. I was in the Cayman Islands for a day once upon a time, way back in 2009. I didn't go to hell, but I did get to snog a stingray. And anyone who's been to the Caymans will know exactly what I mean by saying that. Now, let's go to Ard O'Donnell, or is it Sentry Hill, or is it Ard O'Donnell, or which is it? I'm not quite sure. Do you live in Sentry Hill? Do you live in Ard O'Donnell? Let's see, because we're all getting confused now, because a sign has gone up in Letterkenny in recent days, and it is rather confusing because it seems to suggest that Ard O'Donnell is either having an identity crisis or Sentry Hill is reclaiming back what it always was. Joined on the line by local author and historian Kieran Kelly. Kieran, good morning.
How are you? Good morning to you.
Kieran, this sign for Sentry Hill, it's gone up on what I always understood to be Ard O'Donnell, and I'm sure the residents of that road always understood to be Ard O'Donnell. Tell us what's after happening here.
Well, I think it's just a sign went up last week. I first saw it on Thursday, and I just thought it was going to be, I thought it was an accidental thing, just these mistakes happen. But it's still there, so a couple of days. Now, I know, first of all, some people might think this is very small in the grand scheme of things, and I get that. But for the people that who live there, I mean, they're very, very proud to come from Ard O'Donnell. And the sign basically says it's on a railing as you turn up. Right, it's there. It's very much in Ard O'Donnell, but it says Sentry Hill. So the council placed it in the wrong place, essentially. Now, most likely it was an accident. It was put in the wrong place, but it's still there. So despite people complaining about it, it hasn't been moved yet. I believe it's to be moved today, but we'll see.
Now, this is what we would call Upper Ard O'Donnell. It's basically the road that goes down and it comes out at Sculward Small there and goes down the side of Sculward Small. Yeah. Exactly,
and so basically Sculward Small would be on Sentry Hill. So the sign's basically at the wrong side of the road, the wrong end of the road. So basically, you go ahead.
Yeah, so Sentry Hill basically then starts at the yard of Sculward Small. That's the start of Sentry Hill, is it?
Essentially, yeah. That kind of road there. I was actually looking to be sure. I wanted to make absolutely sure. I went on a map website on the Ordnance Survey of Ireland, and it's actually called Sentry Hill Road. But it would be, traditionally, it's Sentry Hill. The road going through as Sentry Hill Road.
Yeah.
But the Sentry Hill encompasses kind of that kind of greater area up towards the college and across there where the mart would have used to be, which is a car park now. So that would be kind of Sentry Hill.
Yeah.
Ard O'Donnell was a housing estate that was built adjacent to Sentry Hill, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
The sign's just in the wrong place. So.
And anyone who has done your walking tours of Letterkenny over the years will know that, I mean, Sentry Hill is a very important part of Letterkenny's history, and that's sort of commemorated by a very interesting monument at the top of Sentry Hill there on the grass.
It is, of course, and it is very, very important in the town's history, and that's why it's important to get these wee things right. If anybody sees that and they're misinformed, even if they're only visiting for a couple of days and they see the sign there, they're in the wrong place. Sentry Hill was a place that it comes back. Sentry was a soldier who kept lookout over the town, so it was used back in the 1800s, 1700s even, to look over the town to protect it from any attack. For example, in 1689, there's records of the town being attacked and being warned from Sentry Hill. Now, that's how it got its name. In later years, then it was used as a lookout post for people who were going to the Mass Rock up at Rogers Burn. And so to commemorate all that, there was a monument, he said, designed by Redmond Herity, the fantastically talented Redmond Herity. And it's just opposite the college up on the hill there looking over. And that's at the time that was unveiled, it was very important that was put in the right place. We didn't put it in Ard O'Donnell.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is a very important one, yeah, because it actually serves that double. It was the lookout over the town, but also the Rogers Burn one is interesting. Anyone that doesn't know, Rogers Burn is a mass rock. It's if you pass Gaelscoil Ounan and go down past Denotty and College Park there, it's just down at the bottom, and there was a mass rock there. So it was an interesting one that you could sort of be at Sentry Hill. Now, this is obviously before the area was built up and you had better sight lines and vision and so on. So it is a crucial part of the history in both directions, both in terms of when it would have been the British Army per se, and also the Irish Catholics looking after their own.
Exactly, and as you say, the town has changed a lot. And back then, the town was like on the main street, and that was essentially the town. So these kind of hills, and the viewpoint was all over. You could see from there, and that's where it got its name. A Sentry was posted there, and there's maps going back to the 1830s and so on that show it called Sentry Hill. And the fact that it has stood that, it's still called that all these years later, is fantastic. So it's important that we remember that and we don't lose sight of it. It was an accident. It was a sign put up in the wrong place, and I get that nobody meant to do it, and it's not, they're probably saying this guy's making a big deal out of nothing. But these are the wee things to get right. In my opinion, when you're doing something historic, when you're putting a sign up, it has to be 100% correct. There's a sign, for example, and it's still up outside the county museum that points to the old famine graveyard. And it was not a famine graveyard. It was incorrectly put up. The people, the staff of the county museum, are trying to get the sign down. Hugh Devlin has pointed out in his research fantastically that it was a graveyard, but not used during famine times. So, but the sign still says Old Famine Graveyard, and it's still up after years of complaining about it. Yeah. So these are the wee things that if you get right from a historical point of view, visitors come to the town and we want to get these wee things correct for them, that they know where they are, they know where they're going, they know what that is. And if they're walking around there and they see a sign in the wrong place, they're just going to accept that's where it was. And these are the things, in my opinion, to get right.
Seeing as you mentioned the Old Famine Graveyard, one of the things that's in that particular area is a replica cooking pot. Is that significant? I mean, is there evidence that there was a cooking sort of feeding station there at the time?
Oh, definitely. I mean, it was a workhouse.
The museum was the workhouse, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and it would have been used in there. But the plot of land where remains were discovered when they were building the Garda station, it was used as a graveyard. It just wasn't used during famine times. It was much later. It was at the 1860s, 1870s. So, but it's labelled as a sign saying Old Famine Graveyard, and that just gives the wrong impression of what it was. And these are the things they said. From talking to Judith and Caroline at the museum, they want to get that right and get it down because it is wrong.
Absolutely. Well, if anyone ever gets the chance to take one of Kieran's walking tours, I know Paul McGuire does walking tours, Letterkenny as well. If you ever get a chance to do one of those, absolutely take it, because there is a wealth of knowledge out there. There is a wealth of history out there. And sometimes, and I used to find that with Waterford. I mean, my better half Pauline and I once actually said, right, we're going to do a tourist day in Waterford. We went to all the museums. We went to Reginald's Tower and did stuff that, we had never been in most of the museums in our own town. We've been in museums in countless towns, cities all over Europe and beyond, but rarely we did the ones in our own. And I would always say to people, look, go to the museums in your own town. Do the walking tour in your own town, because there is loads of stuff out there that you don't know that's really, really rich.
If there's anybody that can't do the walking tours, well, I actually made a virtual walking tour. It's available on YouTube, that they can take it sitting with a cup of tea in front of them. It takes 30 minutes, and they can go around the town and learn these little things. Because I understand not everybody can walk around, and Letterkenny is quite hilly, and so it's available. So if they look for it on YouTube, just look for virtual Letterkenny tour. But you're correct that it's basically the museum in Letterkenny is free to go to, and it's fascinating the stuff you can find in there. And I tell the kids that I teach all the time too to go. It's free. Go.
Absolutely.
You can learn so much about it, and you can learn where Century Hill is.
Thank you. Kieran, it's been a pleasure as always. Thank you very much indeed. And as Kieran said, hopefully that sign's going to be changed today. So Kieran, thank you very much indeed. So yes,
thanks so much, Don.
Yep, thank you very much. That is Upper Ard O'Donnell, where the sign is, and that's going to be clarified hopefully now in the coming hours. Caller says, I'd like to thank your show. Through your show, I'd like to publicly thank the ambulance service and personnel for their prompt response and treatment on Sunday evening. My grandson had a severe reaction after a fall. My call was answered immediately. An ambulance was dispatched. I was instructed over the phone on what to do next until the paramedics arrived. They saved his life. The treatment in the emergency department was also excellent. We are sincerely grateful, and it's lovely to read a message like that, and it's really important that we do, because yes, we are here to highlight issues, we are here to highlight problems, but we are also here to highlight the fact that our health service by and large operates very, very well. And it isn't, sometimes we give the impression that our health service is just this dysfunctional mess that doesn't work at all. It isn't. It's a cumbersome and clunky, bureaucratic-led organisation that has major problems, but at its core are wonderful professional people who provide a wonderful professional circumstances, a very professional service, very often in the most difficult and pressurised of circumstances, and it is our pleasure to actually highlight that and make sure that that is to the fore. One more comment before we go to our next call. I will vote in the county council elections this month, but I will put NA on the European Parliament ballot sheet. Does Southern Ireland still have a future in Europe? What would our economy be like once we were outside the EU? It's an interesting question, and it's a question we can't answer. And I suppose really what we will have to do is the experiment is being done by our neighbours. So if anyone wants to assess what would our economy be like if we were outside the EU, I suppose as best and as dispassionately as we can, look at what's happening in the UK, look at the impacts of Brexit and ask the question, has Brexit been an economic success, or has Brexit created economic pressures, and has Brexit delivered what it said it would deliver? And I suspect whatever the answer for that is with the UK, the answer for us would be even more so, because if we were to leave Europe, realistically speaking, what we would end up doing is effectively anchoring ourselves to the UK, because whatever about the UK economy surviving on a standalone basis, realistically speaking, I don't think the Irish economy could survive on a standalone basis. The Irish economy would have to latch on to somebody else, and it would, I suspect, be the UK we would latch on to. Also raises then questions about the euro. Do we stay members of the euro? Do we revert back to a punt, which we would then align with sterling? A lot of questions attached to that particular one. And it's a debate I'm sure at some point we will have. Now, let's go to line one, because we're joined by Peter. Peter, good morning.
Good morning, Donal, and good morning to all your listeners.
Thank you very much indeed, Peter. Now, we're going to talk about Inishowen, because I often argued in discussions with friends down the country that really Donegal is sort of three counties. There is west/southwest Donegal, there's East Donegal, the Lagan Valley, and then there is Inishowen. And Inishowen is almost a county in itself. I mean, and very often one of the things we're told when Inishowen is discussed, it's bigger than County Louth in terms of area. And you're saying that Donegal may be characterised as the forgotten county, but if Donegal is the forgotten county, Inishowen is the forgotten part of Donegal.
Yes, well, Inishowen historically was an independent entity in itself. The Isle of Owen, named after the Orangian chieftain, Owen, son of Neil. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, it doesn't have an official title, official name. This became apparent to me whenever I received my electoral post. My postal address was Redcastle, Lifford, County Donegal. So, I mean, I think it would be nice if we could get our official name back.
Yeah.
Donal.
Now, I think I do have some insight into this one, because it's an issue I did look into before in a different context. I think the reason it says Lifford is that registers the nearest large post office. That's actually a postal thing rather than an identity thing. That basically there are, in Donegal, there are two major post offices recognised. They are Letterkenny and Lifford in terms of sorting. So if you, for instance, look at places in Bunbeg, the official address in Bunbeg is Bunbeg, Letterkenny, County Donegal. So as I understand it, anything to the west of Letterkenny is going to be Letterkenny in terms of its sorting office. Anything north of Lifford is going to be Lifford in terms of the sorting. So it's not to do with the identity of the peninsula, it's to do with the nearest sorting post office. That's my understanding of why it says Lifford.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that, Donal. It's just whenever you come into Inishowen, there's no signage welcoming you to Inishowen as a place. And I just feel that, Inishowen's just, a bit neglected in that way.
It's an interesting one, because I was driving in that direction with my wife last week, and we were talking about this in the context of the elections. And I said to her, right, you'll know you're in Inishowen when you see the names on the posters change. And it's interesting that I did say that, because, that's the only way you will know that the names on the election posters change. And that we're in a show now, because it's candidate A rather than candidate B that's on the posters.
Yes. No, it's just that, we're all marketed as a county, as County Donegal, and a lot of visitors, you feel that whenever they get to Donegal town, they just, they forget about what's further north. And I just think that, if we just pay a little more attention to our identity as an isle.
Yeah, I mean, in fairness, there is a lot of discussion going on at the Inishowen Municipal District, and there has been in the past couple of months and all parties doing this. And one of the things they're saying, in fairness to them, is, look, there's a big focus on Malin, there's a big focus on Malin Head, there's a big focus on Fort Dunree, but there needs to be more focus, and they need to be springboards. And indeed, Martin McDermott, who's been pushing Malin Head big time, he did make the point, in fairness to him, that look, there's no point in having this big, huge development in Malin Head if you don't have coach tours going to the peninsula, if you don't have that being used as a springboard to develop other areas of the peninsula. And there are so many other areas in Inishowen. I mean, up to and including the inch levels, which are in Inishowen, but a lot of people mightn't necessarily recognise that because Inishowen pretty much starts at Newton. So, I mean, there is definitely a scope there in terms of Inishowen and in Inishowen tourism. You want to see Donegal County Council do more in terms of promoting that?
Well, there's a lot of good work being done, and there's a lot of people working very hard, to promote Inishowen. It was just really the name and the officialdom of the name, and I'd love us to be, the official name to be, even Inishowen, County Donegal, to be on our official addresses, and, for signage to go up, when we enter the peninsula, so that people can identify that they're actually here. That's really my point, Donal.
And the question then becomes, and I'm going to ask you this, because where does the Welcome to Inishowen sign go up? Does it go up at Newton?
Yeah, that's the official. That would be the start of, and at Muff Village.
Yep.
Start of the Wild Atlantic Way. Mm-hmm. The local GA club here have done a fantastic mural. I don't know if your listeners have seen it, of Owen. At the start of the Wild Atlantic Way. So I mean, the whole, that whole identity thing, is very important.
Yeah, and there is so much there, right? When you go from Green Navalia over to the inch levels, up to Fort Dunree, up to, I mean, some of the beaches up in Inishowen are among the best in the county, but somehow they don't get the recognition they deserve.
They don't at all, no. And it's not due to people not doing their work or people not promoting. It just doesn't seem to happen, and I can't explain it to them. But we do live in a fabulous place, and we're every bit as good as the likes of Kerry or Dingle or those other places that get so many tourists.
Yeah,
it just doesn't seem to happen here.
And one of the, as I said, it has been identified by various councillors of all parties and all political hues in the Inishowen area that one of the keys is actually to try and get the bus tours into Inishowen. And the more you can get the bus tours in, the more traction you're going to get from that. But there's also the day tripper element. Now, I know an awful lot of people from Derry, from the Causeway Coast and Lens, and from sort of Strabane and that part of Tyrone and Fermanagh would come into Inishowen as well. Now, traditionally in Northern Ireland, if you say Donegal to people, a lot of people in Northern Ireland will immediately sort of think Bundoran, they'll think Rosnowla, they'll think the south of the county.
Yeah,
but maybe there needs to be more of a push, particularly in County Derry, in Antrim, down into Tyrone, Mid-Ulster, to try and get that push for Inishowen and to go beyond Buncrana, because there is so much there.
That's right, yeah. I mean, the cross-border link is crucial. It's very important that we work together to promote the region, as opposed to, trying to be parochial, as it were.
One of the things that's being discussed at the moment is to extend the Wild Atlantic Way into Northern Ireland. So effectively, the Wild Atlantic Way can cross the border and go up toward Benone and McGilligan in Derry and then link up with the Giant's Causeway. So the Causeway Coast then becomes the Wild Atlantic Way, and you don't have this big gap in the middle. Do you think that's something that could work? Because then it would mean Inishowen is going to be part of a cross-border major marketing thing for the Wild Atlantic Way that's going to take that concept and spread it into Northern Ireland and perhaps build on the identity and build on the brand.
I think it can only be positive. Mm-hmm. It can only be positive. I mean, we've all got to work together to bring more people, to this part of the island. I mean, recent studies have shown that, tourism in this part of the world is a lot, isn't as good at all as the likes of the rest of the 26 counties.
You've started the Great Inishowen and Derry Tour Experience to push this campaign. Tell us about that initiative.
Well, I'm a Balti Ireland approved local and national tour guide. I'm also an historian and an author of Struggle, A Walk Through Irish History and Rebellion. I'm very, very passionate about the tourism industry and to get more tourists here, because it's not like any other industry. You can't pack it up and take it to China or take it to Taiwan. I mean, when you establish it, it creates work, sustainable work, well-paid work. And I'm a father of 5 children, and obviously I want to keep them here. So I think working in that type of industry helps to do that. So that's what I'm trying to do, Donal.
Well, Peter, we wish you well in that particular initiative. I have a great grow for Inishowen, actually. I had cousins up at the weekend for a family event, and I actually sent them up to Dunree and beyond. So I think they went up as far as Carn and then came back down again. So I did it increase your tourism by 2 at the weekend at least, and they loved it. I have to say they loved it. Because
there's so much to see, and
there
there's
is,
so much
absolutely,
to
there
do.
is, yeah. And I'll tell you the truth, it was a cousin and his wife, and he would be into military history, so I said, you're going to love Dunree, and she was there going, military, and then she got there and she went, wow. And she was raving about the scenery around Dunree. Now, I mean, you walk up a bit the hill beside the abandoned huts in Dunree, and you look over at that view. There is no better view in this country or beyond than that. When you're looking down, I mean, wow.
Yeah, the wow was everywhere.
Oh, totally.
I mean, I'm standing here and looking out on Lough Foyle, and looking over at Downhill, Beneveny. Fabulous.
Well, I'm going to go.
And the history.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to go to line 2 actually, because I did mention that Inishowen Municipal District is doing a lot of work on this, and I'm joined by Councillor Johnny McGuinness. Johnny, good morning.
Good morning, Donal. How are you?
Very well indeed. Peter on the other line. I'm sure you probably know each other. Don't want to make presumptions, but I strongly suspect you do.
Hello.
Johnny, this is something, as I sort of did indicate earlier, that all members of all political hues and shades of opinion have been working on in Inishowen.
Oh, certainly for many years, and my late father, Bernard, was a great advocate for the promotion of the Inishowen 100, even though it was still part of the Wide Atlantic Way in more recent times, and it's certainly something that I've continued to advocate for, and as has been alluded to there, the potential of joining up with the Causeway coastal route going forward, with the link through Derry or through the ferry as well. It has great potential for both regions, and great potential, not on a parochial basis, but to develop the entirety of that coastline there as a destination for families to come and spend an entire week, rather than just coming up and doing a day drive. But it is imperative that the Inishowen 100 is promoted in a more individual way. That it's been there for an awful long time, and it desperately needs a lot of the little laybys, and the signage needs to be restored. And we have so many attractions along our own route, and even looking over at the Sunday Temple. And I mean, it's amazing the collective offering that this area has to offer. But it is very, very important that we get the investment into the route itself, the passing laybys, and more importantly, the signature point that hasn't been developed in Mallinhead. And that is the crux of the problem here. And we've had nothing but talk about this for over 10 or 12 years now, maybe gone 14 years since this initiative was even muted in the first place. And I just can't get over why we haven't had progress made in Mallinhead, and obviously then the promotion of the Inishowen 100 itself.
And this is going back to the initial point that Peter made, that Inishowen is the forgotten part of Donegal, and it would seem that Fáilte Ireland isn't approaching Mallinhead and Inishowen in general with the same sense of urgency that it approaches other areas.
Well, I mean, we've had meetings with them of recent to try and stimulate the effort that's put into this part of the region, and Inishowen in particular. They are leading out with a new pilot program for Inishowen. But yes, certainly Inishowen has been forgotten. There hasn't been enough investment. There hasn't been enough drive, and it's up to ourselves to push for that, and it's up to the people to demand that for the future of all the businesses that are located all throughout that beautiful drive and throughout the beautiful peninsula itself, as you've alluded to.
Absolutely. Councillor Johnny McGuinness there, in Cooldaff, member of Fine Gael. Let's skip across to Carndonagh and go to Sinn Féin Councillor Albert Doherty. Albert, good morning to you.
Good morning, Donal. Good morning, listeners.
Albert, in terms of you had a meeting with John O'Dowd, the infrastructure minister in Stormont, just in the past week on marketing the region, and we've been speaking about the cross-border link-up of the Wild Atlantic Way, and that's something that John O'Dowd is very anxious to progress, as are you and your colleagues on in the Inishowen Municipal District and on Donegal County Council.
Absolutely, and Peter has raised a number of significant issues that are current. But we did use the meeting last week because we wanted to highlight the significance of the A5, A6 and feeding from the east and the south into the region, and also the key that could be the 10T and improvements as a result of that. And over the last number of years, to try and market the area, not alone as a peninsula, not alone as the Northwest, but as a Northwest City region, tying in all those items that you've mentioned there, Cosby, Coast and Glens, Walled City, Inishowen 100, and Donegal, it's different. There are numerous people putting their best efforts into this, and yes, we could do and we can do more to market the Northwest. And, signage has been mentioned. And that's a big, big issue that I've asked to be addressed as we work with Donegal County Council, Derry Strabane, and now the new minister about signage, cooperative signage that promotes this region.
Now, we know there is a shared island fund and there is a substantial amount of money available through the coffers in Dublin for keynote projects north of the border. Now, is it possible that we could look at a development and bring in things like Malin and Fort Dunree and the ferry to McGilligan and perhaps developments on the McGilligan side and create a Inishowen stroke Causeway Coast and Glens single tourism initiative that will qualify for funding under the Shared Island Fund? Because, there seems to be a huge amount of potential here that just isn't being tapped.
Yeah, I believe there's a challenge for us all to be creative and in response and to be positive in the promotion of the region. Sorry, I hope I didn't jump in front of Johnny there.
No,
yeah.
I'm going
to... I think that's all together.
And Johnny, I'll put the same question to you as a member of one of the parties in government. Do you think this is an avenue that could be explored?
Certainly, without a doubt, and there's been quite a lot of representation from the north to the south to try and access the monies that are available through that fund that you're talking about. But when it comes to developing in an area, both parties and both sides of the border and both jurisdictions must work collaboratively together, and that really hasn't happened going over the last short period of time. And even when you come down to speaking about the ferry is funded fully by Donegal County Council, and we have approached the Causeway Coast and Glens Limavady Council there for collaborative financial support for that, and that has never happened since the inception of the ferry back. My goodness, I remember going out and looking at the beaches as a young child with my father and the stakeholders at the time, and since then the ferry was under threat on multiple occasions, and it's only in the recent years that the council have put in funding into the budget every year for that to keep that going, and it's very important for the Inishowen Peninsula. But there must be a collaborative approach, and there must be investment from both sides of the border. And at present, the investment is only coming from the southern side of the border, and unfortunately the Northern Ireland government, because it hasn't been up and running for such a long time, and they really haven't been taking care of their own business, and their own stall isn't in order. And until such time as there is sort of a stable working government in there who are actually drawing down the monies that are made available to them, there won't be a collaborative approach at all. And all the investment is coming from Donegal and from the Irish government.
Well, we have now heard from Councillor Albert Doherty that he and others have met with John O'Dowd, the infrastructure minister north of the border, and John O'Dowd is certainly interested in pursuing this. So hopefully this perhaps is the start of a new chapter in which a functioning executive will be in a position to actually start the kind of discussions that you want to see. Peter, I'm going to give the last word to you. You started this discussion. You've now heard both Councillor Johnny McGuinness and Councillor Albert Doherty and their commitment to keep pursuing this into the future. Does this give you hope?
It all sounds very, very positive. And I mean, if all that could be done, the future is bright for our tourism industry. All that the two gentlemen have said, I mean, it sounds very, very good.
Well, all we can say is thank you indeed, Peter. Thank you indeed to Albert and to Johnny and whatever 9 members are sitting in Inishowen Municipal District after next weekend. I'm sure this is an issue that's going to remain high on the agenda, and that these discussions will continue into the future. But for now, Peter, thank you. Councillor Albert Doherty and Councillor John McGuinness.
And
thanks, Donal.
Come to Inishowen.
Yep, absolutely. And we will keep going to Inishowen.
Thank
And
you.
if anyone hasn't been to Dunree, go. It is absolutely stunning.
Fall in love at first sight with the wedding venue of your dreams this Sunday at the Drumhala House Wedding Open Day. Drumhala House Rathmullen, proud sponsors of today's show.
At Hickey, Clark and Langan Insurance Brokers, they compare quotes from all the leading insurers, so you get a great price. Home, motor and van, farm, holiday home, travel and liability insurance, they quote them all. So if the worst happens, you're covered. For a competitive insurance quote today, call Hickey, Clark and Langan on 9126688 or pop into their office at Ballymacool, Letterkenny. Hickey, Clark and Langan General Insurances Limited, trading as Hickey, Clark and Langan, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
An Advanced Healthcare Directive is a document which records your future healthcare decisions, including refusals and consents on treatment, surgery, medicines and resuscitation.
All adults, and particularly those using healthcare services, should make an Advanced Healthcare Directive.
And give a copy to those who need to know.
For information on how to make your own Advanced Healthcare Directive, visit safeguardingireland.org. Protect your healthcare wishes from Safeguarding Ireland.
Your specialty is quality tiles, bathroom suites and wooden floors. Who has the best range of tiles in Donegal?
Crawford Tiles.
The best wood flooring?
Crawford Tiles.
The best bathroom suites?
Crawford Tiles.
5-day bathroom refits?
Crawford Tiles.
And who's been tampering with my questions?
That'll be me.
Crawford Tiles, Castlefin. That'll be them. 07491 43942.
Knock knock. Who's there? 130 million euro. That's who. I'm not even joking. The Euro Millions Mega Draw is back on Friday, the 7th of June, with a guaranteed jackpot of 130 million euro. It's gonna be an absolute belter.
The National Lottery. It could be you. Play responsibly. Play for fun.
Join John Breslin and the Highland Radio Outside Broadcast team live at Forward Emphasis International in Mallinhead this Wednesday for an open day between 1 and 4 p.m. Discover one of Inishowen's largest employers. John will be talking to the team and learning more about their open roles and Earn and Learn programs. Call in and enjoy light refreshments from Irish Brew and get a Forward Emphasis International goodie bag plus lots more. That's this Wednesday at Forward Emphasis International, Mallinhead.
Highland Radio weather updates brought to you by McElhinney's. With over 50 years of serving the community in Donegal, McElhinney's is proud to be part of every moment, big and small. Support local, shop McElhinney's Ballybuffet.
It'll be cloudy at first with scattered outbreaks of rain and drizzle and some mist clearing southeastwards through the morning. Sunshine and a scattering of showers following. A few of the showers heavy in northern parts, cooler than recently. Top temperatures today hitting 12 to 15 degrees Celsius. Cooler as westerly winds veer northwesterly with the clearance of rain, increasing moderate to fresh and occasionally gusty. Now tonight, we'll see some clear spells with scattered showers, a cold night for early summer with lowest overnight temperatures 3 to 7 degrees Celsius, winds easing mostly light to moderate westerly or variable, a little fresher along the north coast. Tomorrow Wednesday it'll be cool and bright with sunshine and scattered showers. Top temperatures tomorrow just hitting 11 to 15 degrees Celsius in light to moderate westerly winds, fresher in northwestern and northern coastal parts. Well, the discussion on Inishowen prompted a lot of comments actually. Caller says Inishowen is and always will be part of Donegal. It's up to us, the people of the county, to showcase it at every opportunity, show it on Facebook and TikTok and Instagram. We have a duty to our county to promote our county, and that is indeed true, and our duty is to promote every part of this county, and what a wonderful county it is. Caller says, I agree with Peter, but I feel our councillors over the years let us down and could have done more to promote Inishowen. Definitely the forgotten part of Donegal, but I feel we're so used to being forgotten and neglected that we take it in our stride. Sad, but true. Thank you for sharing my viewpoint. No, as I said, in fairness, it has been, this issue has been discussed at council level for quite some time, and I know there are issues that some councillors believe they aren't getting the support they deserve from government and particularly from Fáilte Ireland and other tourism funding bodies. Interesting comment here. Caller says, when Donegal plays, they refer to the men of Tyrconnell, yet many players in the Donegal team are from Inishowen, which is not part of Tyrconnell, which is an interesting point. And that is my understanding, is that Inishowen and Tyrconnell were two, and Peter did say at the very start that Inishowen used to be an independent area of its own, and that's where the pardon me, that's where the difference was. So when we talk about Tyrconnell as Donegal, we are sort of, maybe, are we isolating, without meaning to, are we isolating Inishowen? Another caller says Inishowen, actually the area of Inishowen historically goes to within 6 miles of Strabane. So presumably what you're saying then, caller, is Inishowen stretches into in towards new buildings and that general area. Now, we have a couple of minutes before we have to go for break news. We're going to go to Conal Shovelin. Conal, a very good morning to you.
Morning.
Conal, you believe there should be an exhibition of the old signs and road materials that we used to use in Donegal. A lot of these are now lost and we forget about them. So you believe this is something that needs to be looked at?
Well, it's just following on your item on museums and that, but Donegal County Council, I mean, maybe I'm unaware of it, but there's such history attached to it since the start of the council, particularly with transport and lorries and old road signage. And I remember the old steamroller. There used to be a caravan after it with a fire, and that this man that driving the steamroller used to sleep in it at night, you know, and started up in the morning. And we were fascinated as we went to school and passed these type of things on the road, you know. But also all the old signs, like there were signs on hills, Ard, Steep Hill and all that. And the old lights, the old lamps that they used to, oil lamps that they used to have when they were doing roadworks and all that. I mean, I don't know, is it preserved, or is there any of that, you know, being looked after in the county? But it's a kind of it's a big story with the council since its foundation, with all the lorries they had. I mean, they would be now, you know, there would be sort of collector's items, that old material. And a lot of the old signs came down, and, you know, they were probably, you know, for the towns and all that. And I just wonder, you know, I mean...
Yeah. And you believe that if the County Museum and the Council were to get together, locate some of these signs, you could get a very, very interesting exhibition going.
Yeah, well, things like the old trucks and that, you know, you know, vintage trucks and all that. I mean, with Donegal County Council logo on them and so on. I mean, I came across an old inventory book that my uncle had. He worked for the Congested District Board before the foundation of the state, and he actually sadly passed away, and he died in 1918 in the big flu when he was working in Garda down making bog roads and that, you know. But there is so much material like that, that old signs and old trucks, that there's a story with the council, but maybe it is preserved in Lifford, and maybe they have a building for it, and maybe there's something, you know, that these things are preserved. But particularly these old signs, like that when we were going to school, we saw them on the roads. If they're, you know, it would be nice to have them.
It's a very interesting. It's a very interesting point, Conal. And I will be honest, if there is such a building or such an area that preserves them, I'm certainly unaware of it. We'll certainly put the question out there if anyone is aware of that, or it's ever been done, or if it's ever been looked at. Please do let us know. For now, Conal, thank you very much indeed for speaking to us this morning.
Okay.
Thank you, Conal. You look after yourself. That's Conal there. The time 1.5 to 10. I'm going to take a short break. News and obituaries to come, and we'll see you on the other side of those.
The 9 to Noon Show with Drumhallow House Rathmullen. Wedding open day this Sunday from 12 to 4 p.m. with complete wedding setup, including champagne reception, live music, and an opportunity to meet the team to discuss your special day.
In 30 seconds, we want to let you know that the 242 Opel Open Road event is now on. We're going to use half of the time to suggest you explore Opel's extensive award-winning range. Half of the time to tell you you'll get 3 years free servicing. Then, we've nothing else to talk about. In fact, the percentage of our time we're going to talk about finance offers, that would be 0%. Find out more about our 242 offers at Manor Motors Opel. See manormotors.ie for details.
Don't miss Glenswilly GAA Bingo this Wednesday, 5th of June at 8:30. There's 3 chances of winning €500. All other houses €100 and all lines €40. With spot prizes on the night. That's this Wednesday, 5th at Glenswilly GAA Hall.
It's National Food Waste Recycling Week. We should all try and prevent food waste, but when it's unavoidable, use your brown food waste bin to dispose of all cooked and raw food waste. Be climate positive. Visit mywaste.ie for lots of excellent tips and tricks. Brought to you by the Government of Ireland.
It's time to transform your smile with the help of Blue Poppy Dental, Letterkenny and Donegal Town. Their expert team offer orthodontics, teeth whitening, implants and composite bonding all in-house. Start your journey by calling 074 97 40404 or easily book your appointment online at a time that suits you through their user-friendly patient portal. Available anytime, anywhere at bluepoppydental.com. Blue Poppy Dental and Orthodontics, Letterkenny and Donegal Town. Gift vouchers available.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, I'm Michaela Clark with the news at 10 o'clock. The SDLP's Lillian Senoy Barr has vowed to be a mayor for all after making history. The new mayor of Derry City and Strabane District Council is the first black woman to hold the title in Northern Ireland. Hundreds of guests, including her family who travelled from Kenya, attended the ceremony in the Guildhall yesterday evening. She's thanked the people of Derry for their support.
I think Derry has made history, and Derry has that reputation of making history all the time. I'm just so delighted that again Derry is shining across the world for being a much progressive city, a welcoming city.
The Taoiseach says the public understands the difference between protest and thuggery and is calling for an end to the toxicity in modern politics. Garda are investigating an incident where Simon Harris was pushed and harassed while on the campaign trail in Mayo over the weekend. He says Friday's election will give people a chance to have their say in a democratic and fair manner.
I do think there's a toxicity in politics and public life that is being fuelled by a small number of people. I don't think it should be ignored. I think it should be called out. It's why I bristle when people talk about protest, because some things are protest and some things are thuggery, and I understand the difference, and so do most people in this country, and we should never allow the two be conflated.
Donegal County Council is being urged to confirm that a second water tanker being delivered to the county will be located in Inishowen. A motion was previously brought before the council calling for a water tanker for the peninsula. However, there was much outrage when that tanker was then stationed in Letterkenny. With the second tanker now on order, Councillor Martin McDermott says Inishowen cannot be overlooked for a second time.
There were situations here in the peninsula, particularly here in North Inishowen, where the fire brigade would attend a fire in different areas where there wasn't the capacity for water, and the fire engine had to travel sometimes up to 10 kilometres to get water. There's a second water tanker that has been ordered, and I think it has to be delivered in Inishowen this time. It's very, very important that we have that water tank. It's a life and death situation.
A man has been charged in connection with a public order incident in Letterkenny on Sunday night. Garda attended the scene at around 11:05 in the Glencar area. A man in his 20s was arrested. He's due to appear before a sitting of Letterkenny District Court at a later date. Penalty points for speeding and using a mobile phone should be doubled right away. The Irish Road Victims Association is backing a bid by the Road Safety Authority for emergency laws to increase points from 3 to 6 per offence. 80 people have been killed on the roads so far this year, while 137 people were detected driving under the influence over the bank holiday weekend. Leo Lehio from the IRVA says people need to be made responsible for their actions behind the wheel.
We had to take responsibility ourselves as well. Like, the guards can't be everywhere, and the government can't be holding our hands every time we go out onto the roads. We have to take responsibility. Like, those 137 people that were caught drink driving, they're just ignorant, selfish people, and I have no sympathy for them whatsoever.
Investigations are continuing into a knife attack in Derry. A man in his 20s is reported to have been assaulted in the Rollston Avenue, Hernway area of the city at around 2:20 a.m. on Sunday. He was treated at the scene by the Northern Ireland Ambulance Service before being transferred to hospital. As part of inquiries, it was established that a second man in his 40s was also injured. A 52-year-old man was arrested in connection with the incident. He has since been released on bail to allow for further inquiries. Police are appealing to anyone with information to come forward. And a baby goat trapped at the top of a castle in Greencastle for 4 nights has been successfully rescued. The alarm was raised by members of the local community over the weekend. The goat was yesterday rescued in a joint operation conducted by the Donegal Mountain Rescue Team and the ISPCA. Animals in Need Donegal confirmed that the goat has a suspected fractured back leg and is receiving veterinary treatment. Weather now, sunshine and a scattering of showers today with highest temperatures of 12 to 15 degrees. That's all from Highland Radio News for now. We'll be back with an update again at 11 o'clock. Until then, you can keep up to date with the latest local news on our website highlandradio.com. Good morning. The obituary notice says for this Tuesday morning, June the 4th. The death has occurred of Rose Burke, Branch Kincashla. Her remains are reposing today and tomorrow at her own home from 12 noon until 10 o'clock with rosary at 8 o'clock. Funeral Mass on Thursday morning at 11 o'clock in the Star of the Sea Church, Annagry, with interment afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. The house is strictly private on the morning of the funeral. The death has taken place of Frankie Kavanagh, Ballynally Lane, Moville. Frankie's remains are reposing at his home. Funeral from there on Thursday morning at 10:30, going to St Pius X Church, Moville, for Requiem Mass at 11 o'clock, followed by burial afterwards in Drung Cemetery. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu if desired to the Ornally, care of any family member or Kelly's funeral directors. The death has taken place of Margaret McGinley, Glebe Downings. Funeral from her late residence tomorrow, going to the Church of St John the Baptist, Carrigart, for Requiem Mass at 1 o'clock, followed by interment in the adjoining cemetery. Family time from 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock and on the morning of the funeral. The death has taken place of Henry Bradley, Annagry East and formerly of Crossroads, Killygordon. Removal from McGlynn's funeral home to his home in Annagry East today. House private to family today. Funeral in the Star of the Sea Church tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock with burial in the local cemetery. Family flowers only. Donations in lieu to Donal Community Hospital Comfort Fund, care of Sean McGlynn, funeral director or any family member. The death has taken place of John Wasson, Ballyhin East, Greencastle and formerly of Derry. John's remains are reposing at his home where you're welcome to pay your respects. Funeral from there at 1:20 tomorrow afternoon for 2 o'clock funeral service in Moville Presbyterian Church, followed by burial in Ballybrack Graveyard. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu if desired to the Ornally, care of any family member or Eamon McLaughlin, funeral directors. Family time from 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock and on the morning of the funeral. The death has occurred of Cecilia Callahan, née Mulligan, Kinleater, Ballybuffet. Family, friends and neighbours welcome today from 6 o'clock until 9 o'clock. Funeral leaving from her home tomorrow morning at 10:20 for Requiem Mass in St Mary's Church, Shesh O'Neill at 11 o'clock. Interment afterwards in the adjoining churchyard. Family time at all other times and on the morning of the funeral, please. The Requiem Mass will be streamed live via the parish YouTube channel. The death has occurred of Eileen Boyce, née McDade, Rough Park, Woodlands, Letterkenny, formerly the Halfway House, Ballymaleel, Letterkenny, reposing at her home. Requiem Mass this morning at 11 o'clock in the Church of the Irish Martyrs at Gortley, Letterkenny, burial afterwards in Comwall Cemetery. Mass can be viewed on the parish YouTube channel. Family time before the funeral this morning. Family flowers only. Donations if desired to Hillcrest Nursing Home Patients Comfort Fund, care of any family member. The death has taken place of Desi Loughlin, 24 Muckish Avenue, Letterkenny. Desi's remains are reposing at his late residence. Funeral from there this morning at 10:30, going to St Junan's Cathedral for 11 o'clock Requiem Mass, which can be viewed live on churchservices.tv. Interment afterwards in Comwall Cemetery, Letterkenny. Family time before the funeral this morning, please. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu of flowers if desired to Medical 3 Ward, Letterkenny University Hospital, care of any family member. The death has occurred of John Byrne, Carrick McGrath, Ballybuffet, reposing at his late residence. Funeral leaving from his home this morning at 10:20 for Requiem Mass in St Mary's Church, Shesh O'Neill at 11 o'clock. Interment afterwards in the adjoining churchyard. Family time before the funeral this morning. The Requiem Mass will be streamed live via the parish YouTube channel. And the death has taken place of Joe McShane, 114 Berry Hill Road, Arty Garvin, Strabane, reposing at his home. Fiona leaving his home this morning at 10:25 for Requiem Mass in St Mary's Church Clockcore at 11 o'clock. Interment afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Donations in lieu of flowers please to Mary Curie, care of Quigley Funeral Directors. For family information and more details regarding wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
Hi, Adam Harris here from As I Am, Ireland's national autism charity. Sunday 2nd of April is World Autism Day, and we're asking you to put on your walking shoes and join us for our Same Chance Walk for Autism in Belmont Domain in Greystones. The Same Chance Walk is a great way to show your support by helping to raise much needed funds for our work with autistic children, families and adults. We all deserve the same chance in life, but autistic people face barriers that others don't. Please help us to remove these barriers. Join us on the 2nd of April. Sign up today at asiam.ie.
This is the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. It's hour 2 of the programme. Donal Kavanagh with you until 12 noon. Just some of your comments. We were discussing Inishowen and its identity before the break. Caller says, surely this question must be asked of our new councillors as well. I thought Inishowen stopped at the Borough Bray on the way into Newton, hence the name. My understanding is Inishowen starts about, give or take, about 500 metres to a kilometre on the manor side of Newton. That's my understanding. In and around, there's a turn off there as you're driving toward Newton. There's a turn off to the left there for Ard. I think it's there or thereabouts. There's Killyverry, that sort of Killyverry Ard. I think that's where Newton starts. And that's where Inishowen starts. And I'm sure someone will be able to put us right on the specifics of that. Caller says, was wondering if anyone else has been in touch regarding being made homeless as a consequence of the government's grants to the defective block affected families. Our daughter is a single parent of 2 boys. She's been renting a house for nearly 10 years. Her rent was relatively low. The landlord, however, has now given her 90 days notice, citing the fact and her rent will be rising. Why is there no cap or I beg your pardon, I'm going to start this again. Why is there no cap on the rent? Will my daughter and her family now have to buy a tent and camp? Is there nowhere else to go? Is this going to be another homeless problem to add to the defective block disaster? And I think what the caller here is saying is that effectively because of the government grants to the defective block affected families, that's effectively pushing rents up in the area because the perception is that they're getting a certain amount of money from government for rent and therefore they can afford to pay more and therefore rents are being increased. Now, my understanding is at this point in time, Donegal is not part of a rent control zone, so there are no caps on rent per se in this area at the moment, but it is an ongoing and evolving discussion. Now, caller says, looking at the fishing issue, caller says, a government defunct of rational thinking. A few days ago, I went to Killybegs with a friend who'd spent years on fishing trawlers operating out of Rossaville in Galway. He explained to me as we surveyed the large amount of modern trawlers all tied up. There were 18 tied up. He told me due to quotas that have been shrinking for years, it was hardly worth gathering a crew to go out, and he painted a sad picture of our once beneficial fishing industry. The islands of Arranmore, Tory and Inishowen, he pointed out to me, were the original source of great fishermen going out in all weathers in their half-deckers, bringing in full catches of herring and cod to Altacoran, Burton Port, Maharorty and Nadunav Downings, the proper Irish names for those fishing ports. Now all the inhabitants of these islands around the country all they can do is stand on the piers with nostalgic tears in their eyes as their once rich fishing grounds are plundered within sight by foreign fishing vessels from Norway and Spain, all down to the fishery sellout in the 80s. There have been various debates on TV and radio and on Highland Radio to be seen and heard in Donegal. Candidates in local and Euro elections were stating their cases, many new faces for a myriad of reasons. However, the issue of the, and that's very much the discussion regarding Muireann Kavanagh in Arranmore. That's very much the same situation that Muireann Kavanagh was in on Arranmore, trying to fish pollock in her case and her family's case, but unable to do so because of quotas. And yet, within sight of Arranmore, again, large trawlers out fishing, and that's part of the common fisheries policy, with many, many calls for a review of that particular document. Now, it's 14 minutes past 10. We're going to take a short break for the bingo numbers. So if you do play Vision Ireland Highland Radio Bingo, please grab your books, grab your pens. I'm going to be handing you over to Canis in just a moment. And after that, then we will have our Community Garda information slot. All that coming up.
The county's #1 talk show, the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
It's time for Vision Ireland Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Tuesday, the 4th of June. You're playing on the brown sheet. The reference number is S12. It's game number 23. The numbers are 9, 84, 52, 66, 38, 74, 17, 27, 40, and finally 72. Phone your claim to 9104833 before 8 tonight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your Vision Ireland bingo information at highlandradio.com.
Here's to the good stuff. The dip in the sea, the run after work, the catch up with friends, the come back to ours, the Kerrygold butter that spreads straight from the fridge for hot buttered toast, or a build your own sandwich, the chat round the table, the sharing of plates, of news and of tales, and the taste that means everything. Kerrygold spreadable butter, straight from the fridge. Kerrygold, may your table always be full.
It's the Right Price Tiles and Wood Flooring 70% off sale. Get up to 70% off on all your purchases. Up to 70% off all tiles, all wood flooring, all bathware. Everything's reduced in store. The 70% off sale at Right Price Tiles and Wood Flooring. Stores nationwide. Sale ends Sunday.
The Chadwick Summer Sale is now on. Step into the great outdoors and give your garden and patio areas a makeover with our wide range of garden furniture, barbecues, mowers, paving and decorative stone, tools and accessories. Great deals on showers, surrounds, taps, mirrors and bathroom accessories, plus a huge range of doors, floors, paint and power tools from all the top brands. Shop online at chadwicks.ie or visit your local branch. Chadwicks.
Let's get it done! Dreaming of an exclusive country house wedding with stunning views? Then pay a visit to the Wedding Open Day at Drumhallah House, Rathmullen this Sunday from 12 to 4 p.m. Drumhallah House, sponsors of today's show.
The Community Garda information slot is brought to you by Sheridan Security Systems, protecting what you value most. Call today and get your zero-wire alarm system from €299. Sheridan Security, 91-26025.
This is the Community Garda information slot on Highland Radio. Delighted to welcome Garda Niall Maguire from Falcarra Garda Station in the studio. Niall, a very, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Donal, and good morning to your listeners.
Lovely. Now we're going to kick into it, and we're going to start with a burglary at business premises in Rafo over the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, this is an old derelict licensed premises at Meeting House Street, Rafo, and it was broken into twice over the last week. The first time it was broken into is believed to have occurred between midnight on Friday the 24th of May and 2 p.m. on Friday the 31st of May. Entry was gained to the building through a side wooden door, and graffiti was sprayed on the walls inside, and some fire extinguishers were set off. So really it was vandalism as opposed to breaking in for theft, Donal. The second burglary occurred at the same building on Saturday the 1st of June between 9 a.m. and 8:40 p.m. Nothing is believed to be stolen at any time, but we would appeal to anybody who may be able to assist us in finding out who did this and why they did it. They may contact my colleagues in Letterkenny on 074 9167 100, or indeed the Garda Confidential line 1800 666 111.
And moving to Letterkenny now, an attempted burglary at Solomon's Manor.
Yes, an attempted burglary this time. Entry wasn't gained at Solomon's Manor in Letterkenny shortly before, Sunday the June the 2nd, shortly before 1 a.m. A side window of the property was smashed and the alarm was activated. Nothing appears to have been stolen, so we appeal to anybody who may be able to assist, or anybody that was in around Solomon's Court on Sunday, June the 2nd, shortly before 1 a.m, that may have had a dash camera in their car, or even some of these dash cameras are recording even if the car's not turned on. They're like motion sensors, Donal. So anybody that may be able to assist, please contact again Letterkenny on 074 9167 100.
To Castlefin now, and an incident there you want some help with?
Yeah, this was a very dangerous incident, Donal. There was an elderly gentleman badly assaulted, and his vehicle was damaged. Several vehicles were damaged, and a number of assaults occurred at Hillhead Castlefin on Wednesday the 29th of May, shortly before 9:30 p.m, so it was still daylight. We appeal to anybody again that may be able to, that may have witnessed this and may be able to help us with our inquiries. We have a suspect, but we would still appreciate if a witness or witnesses could contact the Gardaí in Letterkenny on 074 9167 100, and that happened between 9:15 p.m. and 9:45 p.m. on the 29th of May.
Now, last week, Greg was speaking to Sergeant Ewan Walsh about an increase in the number of churches, parochial houses being targeted, and another one to report this week, this time again in Rathmullen.
Yeah, very sad, Donal, to be reporting these kinds of incidences on the radio. My colleagues in Milford are investigating an attempted burglary at the parochial house at St Joseph's Church in Rathmullen on Sunday the 2nd of June between 12 midday and 6 p.m. The lock on the back door of the parochial house was damaged between those times. Thankfully, entry wasn't gained, but if anybody observed anything suspicious around St Joseph's Church or in the parochial house on that date, please contact the Garda in Milford, 074 9153 060. And in relation to that, we have a new Divisional Crime Prevention Officer, Sergeant Fergus McGrory. He replaced Sergeant Paul Wallace at Letterkenny Garda Station, and he would be more than delighted to give any advice to any places of worship on crime prevention. And you can contact him on 074 9167 100, and he'll be very happy to assist.
And I suppose really churches want to remain open. They're providing a service to their parishioners and to people, and they really should be safe havens and places where people can go and be at peace. And sadly, that's not possible in some instances, it seems.
Yeah, it's very sad that this has happened. We have had it before in the past, and they seem to be just coming in waves. So they may be linked, they may not. We're keeping an open mind in relation to all of these incidents because they geographically they're spread around the whole county. Don't know.
Yeah. Largan Rea in Downing's now an incident of criminal damage.
Yes. Again, we have some suspects for this, and we'd appreciate maybe rather than us coming knocking on your door, if they would maybe come and speak to the guards in Milford. 3 windows were smashed at a vacant property in the area at the time. It's believed that a number of youths were involved. We would like the youths to come forward and maybe put their hands up to this. Again, this week we appeal to parents and guardians to speak to the young people about the different consequences they may face if they are to get involved in this type of activity. The Gardaí in Milford can be contacted on 074 9153 060.
A phone stolen from a car now in Kilmacrennan.
Yes, this car was unfortunately unlocked on Saturday the 1st of June at the graveyard in Kilmacrennan sometime between 4:30 p.m. and 5 p.m. again Saturday the 1st of June. A lady's car was entered, and a black Huawei P Smart mobile phone in a black cover was stolen from the car. Again, dash cameras are helpful in this. If anybody was driving past the graveyard in Kilmacrennan on Saturday the 1st of June between 4:30 p.m. and 5 p.m, please make the footage available to the Gardaí in Milford. And again, 074 9153 060.
And again, a salutary lesson. I mean, very often opportunist thieves may walk down a road and literally just start pulling at car handles, and if they don't open, they move on. If they do open, it's open season.
For sure, Donal. It's the unlocked car is the vulnerable one. It's very seldom we have doors forced or windows smashed in car. It does happen, but most of the time it's an unlocked car.
Yeah. Ballabafay Gardaí now a theft from a van in the town.
Yes. Again, another sad one. We hate seeing things, especially workmen's tools that have been stolen when some man's relying on them for his livelihood. So a red Vauxhall van in Ballabafay parked on Navanny Street on the left-hand side of the road just past the Finn Harps pitch heading for Dreenan on Saturday the 25th of May between 4:30 p.m. and 9 p.m. The items stolen were 2 Hilti drills, 2 cordless Hilti circle saws, 2 Hilti angle grinders, a cordless quick cut saw, 2 Hilti impact guns and 2 Hilti screw guns. So all Hilti brand, all very expensive tools. So again, if anybody can help us in tracing these items, or if anybody knows if these are for sale, there are a lot of I think these are red and black, these tools. We appeal to anybody who may have seen any suspicious activity in that area between those times to make contact with the Garda in Letterkenny, who are looking after this. 074 91 67100, or indeed the confidential line 1800 666 111.
And the sad reality here is that not only has that person lost their tools, they've also lost presumably a couple of days' work as a result of this. So they're out of pocket in both respects.
For sure, Donal, yeah. It's very difficult for tradespeople. You know, it's easy for me to come on and say, you know, make sure everything's locked up and tied up and pinned down. But the reality is tradespeople are running out of their van when they're at different jobs, and it is very difficult to understand. But, you know, in relation to maybe security advice, you know, we see a lot of vans maybe with additional locking mechanism fitted to the vehicle. Now, sometimes tradespeople will tell us that, you know, if there is an extra padlock on the outside of the vehicle, it's kind of almost an invitation that there's something expensive inside the vehicle. But I am aware that there's certainly other sort of deadbolts and mechanisms that can be concealed that aren't necessarily visible to the outside. Consider a monitored vehicle alarm and tracking devices for valuable property. Also, I suppose, if you keep an eye on the Garda Donegal Facebook page, we do offer property marking, where we're able to indent even tools with your postcode. Mark and photograph the property and make a record of the serial numbers, makes and models, and you can do that. There's a handy app, the Garda Síochána property app, that can be downloaded from the Play Store that assists you in documenting your items with serial numbers, makes and models, so that if they ever are found, it leaves it much easier for us to return it to the owner. Park your vehicle maybe within CCTV. It's always a good idea, Donal. So if you're at a car park or whatever, there's usually spaces that are covered by CCTV. And store your keys away from windows and letterboxes when you're at home. You know, sometimes these are fished through letterboxes because we leave our keys in the hallway or whatever hanging up within view. So that's another one to bear in mind. And again, always report any suspicious activity to the Garda immediately. You know, you don't always have to give your name or details, but it's something that we appreciate, and we have solved a lot of crimes with people just ringing us saying that they've seen a suspicious vehicle in the area, and we nip there and we're able to stop them on the road.
And the other thing too, of course, is if anyone is offered tools for sale in circumstances which are too good to be true, they probably are too good to be true. Absolutely, Donal. Yeah, that's also another way that some things come to our attention, is that people saying, listen, I've been offered, you know, there's somebody called to my door there and they've been offering me these, and I've heard that they've possibly been stolen. So yeah, let us know. That's it for this week, Garda and Maguire. Thank you very much indeed. If you can help Garda with any of those, contact the relevant Garda station. All these details going up, of course, on our website as well, highlandradio.com. And you can, if you can contact any Garda station, I'm sure, and they'll be happy to pass it on. And just remind us once more now before you go of the confidential line, if people want to use that. Yeah, again, that's just a message. You don't have to leave your details. You can just leave a message, or just you can speak to an operator, and it's 1800 666 111. Before I go, Donal, just one thing to mention. On the 1st of June at Island Roy in Downings, a substantial amount of cash was found, and that can be recovered when it's properly its owners identified at Milford Garda Station. So if anybody lost a wad of cash in Island Roy Downings, contact the Garda in Milford. Okie doke, and on that we'll say, Garda and Maguire, thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Donal.
The Community Garda information slot is brought to you by Sheridan Security Systems, protecting what you value most. Call today and get your zero-wire alarm system from €299. Sheridan Security, 91-26025. Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com.
Drumhallow House Rathmullen Wedding Open Day this Sunday 12 to 4 p.m. Experience once-in-a-lifetime luxury and beautiful surroundings at Drumhallow House, proud sponsors of today's show.
Be a winner and view the trophy collection at Brian McCormick Sports. Full colour awards, glass and crystal, perpetual cups and shields, sports awards, metal cups and medals. Whatever the occasion, click bmcsports.ie. Budget medals for sports days with personalised inserts to promote your club and school. Full engraving service available at Brian McCormick Sports, Main Street, Letterkenny.
Friday is polling day in the European and local elections, and in the Limerick mayoral election, so make sure you're ready to vote. Polling stations are open from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. And don't forget your ID. Your vote is your voice. So be a voter on Friday. From An Comisiún Tábháin, Ireland's independent electoral commission.
Arrive and explore Donegal. For car hire options at Donegal Airport, visit donegalairport.ie. Make your travel plans hassle-free and convenient. Discover Donegal with ease and comfort with car hire from donegalairport.ie.
The sun's splitting the stones, so you bang on the barbecue.
2 minutes later.
There's great drying out, so you hang out the washing to save some lecky.
2 minutes later.
There's no controlling the Irish summer, but you can control your energy costs thanks to hourly insights from Prepay Power. Switch now and enjoy our €100 welcome bonus. That will brighten up your day. Prepay Power. Be energy wise. Available for a limited time only. For T&Cs and rates, see prepaypower.ie.
If you know the beauty and skincare product that suits you best, you'll find them at McGee's Chemist Letterkenny. From moisturisers, cleansers and toners to day creams and night creams, McGee's have the top brands you know and love, like Lancôme, Clarins and La Roche-Posay. Also Elizabeth Arden, Vichy, Nukes and many more. All at McGee's Chemist, Main Street, Letterkenny and online at mcgees.ie, where the best costs less.
It's the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. You'll have heard during the ad break an ad from the Electoral Commission pointing out the importance of voting on this coming Friday. It's EU and local elections polling day and the counts getting underway on Saturday. The sorting of papers takes place at the Oral Leisure Centre in Letterkenny on Saturday, and then all the papers will be taken under Garda escort to the individual count centres for the counting of local election votes. That gets underway on Sunday morning. Now, we are joined on line one by a representative of the Electoral Commission. Indeed, we're joined by Ard O'Leary, the Electoral Commission's CEO. Ard, a very good morning to you.
Good morning. Great pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much indeed. Ard, obviously this is a very important day. This is the day that we get to go into a box and express our preference as to who we want to be the people that govern local policy and local decisions, as well as European policy and European decisions over the next 5 years. That's a privilege that is not to be sneezed at. It's a very important privilege to have.
Oh, absolutely. You know, it's a very exciting week for those of us who love elections, you know, and it's the ultimate in democracy. You know, the people get to choose who gets to represent them both at local level and at European Parliament level, as you mentioned. And so it's very important that you make your voice heard, and that when you go to the polling stations that you fill out the ballot papers correctly, because sadly in 2019, 108,000 people spoiled their votes. So we're trying hard to reduce that number by explaining to people how to complete the ballot papers properly. So when the people of Donegal go to the polling station, they'll be handed two ballot papers, a white ballot paper, which is the European Parliament, which will have 27 candidates on it. So there's a bit of work involved here, do a bit of homework before you go to the polling station, and a second ballot paper for the local elections. It's very, very important that you treat each of these exercises separately. You know, that in each individual ballot paper, you should start 1, 2, 3 and go all the way down to your preferences. And the second ballot paper start again, 1, 2, 3. In 2019, we had many people who voted 1, 2, 3 on the first ballot paper, and then 4, 5, 6 on the second ballot paper. And those second ballot papers didn't count.
Yeah.
You know, so lots of people probably don't know to this day that their vote didn't count back in 2019, but it's very important. We have a very short and simple and clear little video on our website, electoralcommission.ie, which shows what happens every step of the way from the moment that you turn up at the doors of the polling station. So for many people who were 14, 15, 16 and 17 at the time of the general election, this will be their first time to vote. So it's no harm just to have a look at the video and see what happens when you turn up.
As you say, 1, 2, 3, you don't need to go all the way down. You can stop at 1, you can stop at 2, you can stop at 4, you can stop at 11. You stop wherever you wish to stop, but you make sure you do express clear preferences. Now, one of the things I've been asked in the past is, if I just want to vote for one person and I put an X against the one person that I intend to vote for and then leave it at that, is that regarded in the count as expressing a clear and understandable preference?
Yes, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
It's the only circumstance where you anything other than a number. So an X or a tick against a single individual, you'll hear the political analysts calling them plumpers during the count. So it's where people just want to vote for a single candidate, and that's perfectly fine.
But as soon as there are X's on 2 names or ticks on 2 names, it's spoiled.
Yeah, because we can't work out which is the preference. So, I mean, there were a number of ballot papers in 2019 where people voted for 4 and 5 candidates and put 4 and 5 ones. And we just can't tell which is the number one preference. So it's absolute clarity, you know. So, and it's also very important that you don't write anything else on the ballot paper. You know, that this might be the year that Mayo win the All-Ireland, but Mayo for Sam is not the right thing to put on the ballot paper, which is what happened, or up the Dubs or whatever, you know. So it's very important that it's just numbers only, clearly in the boxes.
When someone arrives at the polling station, and people are always told, bring your ID, and I know a lot of people out there will always say, sure, I've been going to the same polling station for years, sure, it's always Geraldine behind the table, sure, Geraldine knows me and I know Geraldine and everything is going to be grand. Don't assume Geraldine is going to be there. Don't assume it's going to be grand. The message to people would be always bring your ID.
Oh, please do. Yeah. I mean, it's if you go to the bother of going to the polling station in the first place, you know, kind of bring your passport or a driver's license or some form of ID with you, because the guidelines for the returning officers is to ask 1 in 4 voters for their ID. So it's very important that you have it. If your polling card isn't necessary, it's handy if you have it because it'll tell you where your polling station is, etc. But it's not necessary to bring it with you when you're coming to vote.
And in terms of, a lot of people won't have gotten, we always have this discussion, and I know that we will be getting questions. People will be ringing us in on Friday morning or Thursday morning. I never got a polling card. The polling card isn't necessary. You don't need to present a polling card. So if you haven't got a polling card in the post, you know, you still do have a vote as long as you're on the register, and people hopefully by now will have checked the register.
Yes, and I mean, checktheregister.ie is a brilliant resource. You can go and check and see whether you're on it. You're absolutely right. You don't need your polling card. Some of them don't get delivered for whatever reason. I mean, on Post have to deliver 3.5 million of these all over the countries, and occasionally some of them go missing or don't arrive safely in time. So a polling information card, absolutely not necessary. Just bring your ID. But if you have concerns about whether you're on the register or not, just go on to checktheregister.ie.
And does checktheregister.ie tell you where your polling station is? Or how can you double check where your polling station is?
Yeah, it'll tell you where your polling station is as well, and all your voter details. So it's a very valuable resource. And people talk about the register all the time as if there is a single register, but there are actually 28 separate registers run by each local authority across the country at the moment, and they don't talk to each other right now. So this is why we're encouraging people that when you're on checktheregister.ie, stick your PPS number on and your date of birth as well, so that if there are any duplicates of you, maybe you're at a different address in a different local authority, or maybe you had a different address when you were in college or your first job or whatever it is. We're really working hard to make sure that the electoral register is as complete and as accurate as possible. So we'll be able to identify individuals in the place where they should be voting.
Now, in common with, I presume, most, if not all, local radio stations, we had a very lengthy and comprehensive series of debates, both European and local, over the course of the past 2 weeks. Now, the debates finished on Friday last. We still have interviews on news and on this programme up to 2 o'clock on Thursday. At that point, 2 o'clock on Thursday, which is not much longer than 48 hours away, the moratorium kicks in. There could be no coverage of the candidates. There could be no coverage of the issues. There could be no coverage of the politics on air after that cut-off date at 2 o'clock on Thursday. Does your work finish at that point in terms of the Electoral Commission, or do you have any involvement in the count protocols and procedures?
Yeah, we'll be in 100 polling stations all over the country on the 7th of June, and we'll be in count centres as well over the weekend and into next week too, because after every electoral event, we write a review, like what went well, what didn't work well, what can be done to improve it. So our work continues right through the weekend as well. And I mean, the moratorium you mentioned is a broadcast moratorium, so this doesn't apply to the online space. So we'll be very, very active on Thursday and Friday, reminding people to get out and vote and encouraging people to get out and vote too.
Now, and obviously we can discuss, what we can discuss on air is the mechanics of the voting process, encouraging people to vote, comments on turnout or whatever. It just, we can't discuss the issues and we can't discuss the candidates and the politics. A question has just come in. I'm going to read this question to you as we've received it. Who controls the register? I've heard thousands of new people has been added. Is this true, and where can this be checked?
Yes, your local authority in every district manages the register for that particular area. We did a big advertising campaign in the early part of this year in the run-up to the referendums in March, because, as I mentioned earlier, there were many, many people who weren't eligible to vote in the last election who are eligible to vote now. So in the first 2 months of this year, as part of this campaign, 185,000 people were added to the register, and most of those are first-time voters, but there are also many people who had changed address since the last election, and it's only now, it's a bit like Irish people and their passports. They tend to leave it until they're going on holidays before their passport is renewed, rather than doing it when it expires, etc. So the electoral register is the same. So the electoral register is available for inspection in any of your local authorities. So there's no big secret about it, and it is available for everybody to see.
And the other question we get asked is who's eligible to vote in what. For instance, a lot of people are saying, that people who've moved to the country from elsewhere recently all have votes, and they're perfectly entitled to have votes.
Yes, in the local elections, you have to be over 18 and ordinarily resident in this country. So that's everybody who lives here and they have a vote in local elections. I suppose they are the beneficiaries and recipients of many, many local services too. And presumably that was the reasoning behind the inclusion of all residents when they were added to the register and entitled to vote in 1963. It's a long time ago that all residents were entitled to vote in local elections.
Is there a time limit in terms of how long they have to be ordinarily resident before they qualify for the vote, or is it as soon as they've moved?
Well, as soon as they move here, if you're ordinarily resident, if you're intending to stay here, then there's no time limit specified in the legislation. But I mean, the time for registration, the deadline for registration was the 20th of May. So it's too late now to add yourself to the register. So, but many people who have been living here for a number of years, and even more recent arrivals who intend to stay here, are ordinarily residents. They're entitled to vote, and a number of them have registered. And we also have a number of candidates who are new arrivals as well.
In terms of the European election, does everyone who gets the vote in the local election also automatically have a vote in the European election, or are the criteria to have a vote there different?
Criteria are slightly different, and you have to be a European citizen, obviously. So many of our new arrivals who are not European citizens won't be entitled to vote there. A number of countries European countries will allow their citizens to vote in their home country. So the embassies expect to be busy over the weekend as well, as people get to vote in France and Germany and wherever as well. So, but you can choose to vote in Ireland for an Irish candidate in the European Parliament elections, but you can't be on both. So you choose to either vote in your home country or in Ireland, but not both.
How about people who are resident here that have UK passports, that would previously have voted in EU elections because obviously they were part of the EU? Since Brexit, they're no longer part of the EU. Does that mean that the holder of a UK passport and does not have Irish citizenship, that person has now effectively lost their EU vote?
That's right, yes. Since Britain decided to leave the EU, then they lost their entitlement to vote in European Parliament elections. They will be entitled to vote in general election sometime in the next 8 to 10 months anyway. So general and local only, but not the European Parliament elections anymore.
Let's go back just for a moment to the spoiling of the vote. From your own research and your own observations, Art, what proportion of spoiled votes are accidental and what proportion are deliberate?
We don't have accurate figures on that, and it is an awful shame. This is something we're going to see if we can get a handle on in these counts. The Electoral Commission was only established a year ago, so the last European Parliament elections and local elections together were in 2019. But this is the reason that me and the staff and members of the Electoral Commission will be in count centres. And we're going to have a good look at the spoilt ballots just to see if we can determine where we need to do our work and focus our energies the next time. So it's clear that some people intentionally spoil their ballots, and that's fine. It's absolutely their entitlement. Our target here is the people who, for one reason or another, unintentionally spoil their ballot. They're the people we'd like to get the message to today, that you need to treat each ballot paper as a separate exercise and just to put numbers and not to write anything else on the ballot paper.
I once heard a suggestion. I once heard a suggestion that there should be a box on ballot papers that said none of the above, and that would give a person the opportunity to express their opinion without necessarily having to spoil their vote. I mean, I don't know, is that something realistic that would ever be actually considered?
It's unlikely because I suppose that it's ultimately a matter for the government and the houses of the Oireachtas, but there are criteria for candidacy in elections which have to be fulfilled, and perhaps it's something that we could have a look at. I mean, we'll probably do some research on ballot papers in the next couple of years, and it might be something certainly that we can have a look at. I'm not sure. I'm not aware of any country which allows people to do that. People tend to write either none of the above or dust in the turkey or a plague on all your houses or whatever it is, and they tend to leave it at that.
Art, before we go, let's just again stress, as we opened by saying, what's happening on Friday is a really, really important thing. It's us getting the chance to express our opinion, and it's the one day in the year where you and I and Michael D. Higgins and Simon Harris and the woman that lives in the house 3 doors down are all exactly the same. We all get one ballot paper. We all have one vote.
I couldn't have put it better myself. And can I just make one small appeal? There's one group of people, there's 60,000 Leaving Cert students sitting maths paper 1 and geography on Friday. And this is a very, very large number of people. And I know they're distracted out of their minds, but if they think of it before they leave the house in the morning, they might think of putting their polling card in their pocket or their rucksack, and then nip into the polling station and vote on the way home after you're done. So, I mean, at that point of the day, you can do nothing about the results of your maths exam or your geography exam, but there is still one result you can change, and that is the results of the local and European Parliament elections. 60,000 people is a lot, and that'll be the difference between winning and losing for many candidates. So for those Leaving Cert students who are eligible to vote probably for the first time as 18 and 19-year-olds, please think of voting on Friday as well.
Ard O'Leary, CEO of the Electoral Commission, thank you very much indeed for speaking to us this morning.
You're very kind. A great pleasure to be here. Thank you.
The 9 to Noon Show with Dromhalla House Rathmullen, home to the most idyllic wedding setting with picture-perfect views. Wedding open day this Sunday from 12 to 4 p.m.
Hi guys, David James here, and we're asking you to push back the kitchen table, dust off your dancing shoes, and join us for our Jive for June campaign, all in aid of the Donegal Hospice. Tune in to the Jive Time show from 2:30 p.m. for your daily Jive. Video your Jive and send it to the Donegal Hospice at gmail.com, and they will post it on their socials, and we will also be posting your Jives on our social media channels too. To register and donate, log on to donegalhospice.ie or contact Isabel on 912565 or 087 238 9607 for a sponsorship form.
It's your fault. You deserve it. It's all in your head. They don't mean it. They can change. Recognizing male domestic abuse can be hard. Seeking support can be harder. For confidential advice and support, free phone the National Male Advice Line on 1-800-816-588. MAL, more than just a helpline.
The Loganair Summer Sale is now on. Fly from City of Derry Airport and save up to 15% off over 1 million seats across the Loganair network. Book by 5th June, travel from 28th June. Subject to availability, exclusions apply. Visit loganair.co.uk. Loganair. Your journey, our joy.
1984 saw the launch of the Macintosh, the first untethered spacewalk, Maradona's world record transfer fee, and a small car with a big personality met the world for the first time. The Seat Ibiza is 40 years young. To celebrate, Seat introduces the special edition Ibiza with a range of style and design features to make it even better. And not to be outdone, there's also a limited edition Arona to stir the senses. The limited edition Seat Ibiza and Arona. Discover our latest offers at seat.ie.
For a great breakfast, pull into Kelly's Diner in Letterkenny. Not just a great breakfast, but mouth-watering burgers, delicious chicken, succulent steaks, and so much more. For kids, it's not just about pancakes, but a full children's menu to choose from. Great food and great service every time. At Kelly's Diner, Letterkenny, winner of Best Family Dining at the Highland Radio Hospitality Awards.
Highland Radio weather updates with McElhenny's. Support local at McElhenny's. With 53 years experience in fashion, beauty and home, we're here for you. Plus, enjoy M-Card rewards when you shop in-store at McElhenny's Ballybuffet.
And looking at the weather forecast, it was quite wet and murky earlier this morning. It brightened up quite a bit. It's after getting a bit misty and murky again, I fear. It's going to be cooler than recently, actually, today, with top temperatures of 12 to 15 degrees Celsius. Showers heavy in northern parts, we're told. Feeling cooler as westerly winds veer northwesterly, with the clearance of rain increasing moderate to fresh and occasionally gusty. Not the best of afternoons, I fear. Tonight we'll get some clear spells with scattered showers. A cold night for early summer with lowest temperatures of 3 to 7 degrees Celsius. Winds easing mostly light to moderate. Westerly or variable, a little fresher along the north coast. Tomorrow Wednesday, cool and bright with sunshine and scattered showers. Top temperatures just 11 to 15. In light to moderate westerly winds, fresher in northwestern and northern coastal parts. Now, I want to say a very special happy birthday to Tommy Piper. Tommy's in Old Town in Letterkenny, 84 today. Happy birthday, Tommy. That's from daughter Sonia and son-in-law Leo, who are sunning themselves in Croatia, and they'll see you next weekend to celebrate. So happy birthday indeed to you, Tommy. Now, I did reference during our paper review this morning in brief the fact that contraception is now free for all women up to the age of 25, and we're joined on the line by Dr. Sarah Brennan, who is a GP. Sarah, good morning to you.
Good morning, Donal.
Sarah, how important is this initiative? It comes into effect from the 1st of July.
Yeah, it's great. They've been giving out free contraception now for a while, and with it they're expanding the range of it. So now they're expanding it up to age 35, which is wonderful. And that's from age 17 up to 35. In time, hopefully, and soon, as they have been doing, as they have been rolling this out, they're going to extend it up to the full reproductive time of a woman. So that's all throughout her reproductive phase, she'll be able to access free contraception, and that's really, really important. And especially when you consider the younger girls, so under the age of 17, it's really important that they also have access to free contraception, which they don't have yet, although they can access free termination. So it would be preferable people have free access to contraception as well.
In terms of the services available through GPs like yourself, there is the pill, and then there are other devices. Are all those covered under the scheme?
Yeah, most of them are. All of the devices, the coils that have hormones in them, are covered. We have had a little bit of an issue around the copper coil, so that was withdrawn, but I'm sure they'll be looking into that again, so that will be available. It had been available, and I'm sure it will be available again. But all of the consultation is covered, all of the medicines are covered. When you go to your pharmacy, you get all of them free. And really, for the most part, everything is covered. Like the implant that people get into their arm is covered as well. So there's only a very tiny little blip in that, in what's covered. So for the most part, everything is covered. Yeah.
Now, presumably in a lot of cases, women will already be in discussion with their GPs and will be in a situation where all that's going to change is they will no longer have to pay once they've reached a certain age. For younger women, those who are maybe just turning 17, who are just 17, who are wondering about this, I mean, presumably the advice to them is, look, go to your GP and sit down and have a chat with her or have a chat with him and see where to go from there, because very much this is now a matter between a woman and her GP.
Yeah, absolutely. And even for girls under 17 as well, they can go to their GP and they may have to pay, but there is a free service in Letterkenny that is funded by the Crisis Pregnancy Association, or charity, and that's in the Women's Centre every Monday from 4:30, and that's free for any girl under that age of 25. And all their medicines will be handed to them there and then. The consult is free, the medicines are given out free, and then we also put in implants as well into the arm, and so that's accessible to all younger girls under the age of 17 as well.
And is that a confidential private service to them, or do they need to be accompanied?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We use the Gaelic principles where we, as long as someone can understand the risks of having intercourse, of becoming pregnant, and they understand the nature of the medicines and the side effects, we can give contraception to young girls as well. So we kind of use that process to assess their capacity to consent to taking the medicine. But it is wonderful if their parents can come with them. And we always advise young girls to talk to their parents so they know they're taking these medicines. So that then they're safer. But if that's not possible for them, we will still prescribe it and give it to them, to protect them from getting pregnant. They're young and their whole life is ahead of them. And being pregnant is wonderful, but not at that age, So we do that.
Dr. Sarah Brennan, thank you indeed for briefing us on that. So the advice basically to any woman, whatever age, really go to your GP, or in the case of the younger ones in Letterkenny, go to the Women's Centre in Letterkenny if that's available to you and realistic for you, and you'll be able to get all the advice there.
Yeah, and just to say that it is wonderful what the government are doing, and addressing women's extra health needs that they have because of reproduction is really important with contraception, and maybe they'll open it up and have a menopause service as well, which would be wonderful. So there's many aspects of women's life that that needs extra care and health needs. So I think this is a wonderful move on for the government.
Dr. Sarah Brennan, thank you very much indeed. That's
You're very welcome.
Dr. Sarah Brennan there, and as she said, if you have any queries on that, go to your GP and she or he will be able to help you there. Caller says, good morning. Protests are legal and part of our constitution, yet our so-called Garda have a protest removal team. Surely this can't be legal. So much for our legal and constitutional rights. We need a citizen police force, and all these should be arrested by the people, which is allowed. Now, I think really there comes a point where protest goes beyond what is legitimate and goes beyond what's acceptable. And there's a discussion on a particular protest over the weekend in County Mayo involving the Taoiseach and people there. So no one is questioning the right to protest. The question, I suppose, really is to what extent and at what point do protests reach a point which is unacceptable, at which point then intervention is necessary. And I suspect there'll be a lot of discussion on that in the coming days and weeks. They're trying to clamp down on young people who have done their driving lessons, yet there are old people who never had a lesson, never got a licence, and most still can't drive. We need a cut-off age. Older people are a danger on the road, so says the caller. Now, my understanding is that older people, it can be determined at times that older people may need to get medically assessed to see if they're fit to drive, or people that may have certain disabilities also have to be assessed to see if they're fit to drive. I have a medical issue, which means I am assessed every time to see that I'm fit to drive. I can't just get my licence rehanded to me. I have to go and get specific tests done just to make sure that I qualify due to a thing in my life. So, you know, and as long as that medical test determines that you're fit to drive, then people are fit to drive. And finally, please say a special thank you to the commentary team that covered the Nicky Record hurling final in Croke Park on Sunday for your listeners. Also well done to Mickey McCann and the team on winning the cup. And that comes from Kathleen Grant. And isn't it wonderful to see a Donegal team raise a trophy in Croke Park, particularly a hurling team. Great to see. Well done. Headlines with Michaela coming up after these.
Fall in love at first sight with the wedding venue of your dreams this Sunday at the Drumhalla House Wedding Open Day. Drumhalla House Rathmullen, proud sponsors of today's show.
Join me, Marty Friel, every Friday night from 8 for Rockin' Hits on Highland Radio in association with Arena 7, where you can enjoy dinner and drinks in the Woodbury Grill Bar and Restaurant before bowling in Arena 7's state-of-the-art lanes. See arena7.ie.
Everyone's a winner with the Lidl Plus app this bank holiday. Our new Super Spin wheel means everyone has a 1 in 10 chance of landing a €10 voucher. For everyone else, there's treats and discounts to be won, so you're a winner any way you spin it. Just spend over €10, scan the Lidl Plus app and spin to win today. T's and C's apply. See lidl.ie/superspin.
The National Women's Council is calling on all women and voters to get out and vote this Friday in the European elections. Your vote can influence issues that affect your daily life, such as progress on gender equality, workers' rights, the economy, climate change, tackling violence against women, and many more. This Friday, 7th of June, make sure your vote counts in the European elections, an initiative by the National Women's Council. This advertisement was funded by the Communicating Europe initiative.
Get ready, Letterkenny. Extreme Fun Fair is rolling into town from Saturday, June 8th to Sunday, June 16th. Experience the thrill of Ireland's largest travelling roller coaster, the Batman, and take in breathtaking views on a real Ferris wheel at over 30 metres high. We've got Europe's top rides, including the Freestyle 360, plus family favourites like bumper cars, waltzers, and more. Don't miss out on the fun. Visit Extreme Fun Fair online for discounts and event info. Extreme Fun Fair at Kiltoy Roundabout, Letterkenny from June 8th to 16th.
If you have a TV, you must have a TV licence. It's the law. Inspectors are calling to homes and businesses in your area this week. If you don't have a valid TV licence, that can mean prosecution and a fine of up to €1,000. Get yours now at tvlicence.ie or any post office. Brought to you by the Government of Ireland.
Test drive the award-winning Volvo 242 range, including the fully electric Volvo EX30, Volvo's smallest ever SUV, on Friday the 7th and Saturday the 8th of June at McGinley Motors Volvo, Pierce Road, Letterkenny. Book your test drive by calling McGinley Motors on 074 91 25 666.
2 minutes past 11. This is the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio with Donal, Kavanagh, and with apologies for our lateness, let's say a very good morning to Michaela Clark.
Thanks, Donal. Good morning. An elderly man has been assaulted in Castlefin in what Garda have described as a dangerous incident. A suspect has been identified in connection with the assault and a number of criminal damage incidents in the Hillhead area on Wednesday last, shortly before 9:30 p.m. Garda are continuing to appeal for information. The SDLP's Lillian Senoy Barr has vowed to be a mayor for all after making history. The new mayor of Derry City and Strabane District Council is the first black woman to hold the title in Northern Ireland. Hundreds of guests, including her family who travelled from Kenya, attended the ceremony in the Guildhall yesterday evening. Another church in Donegal has been targeted as Gardaí warn crimes around churches continue to rise. Between 12 p.m. and 6 p.m. on Sunday, the lock on the back door of the Progril House at St Joseph's Church, Rathmullen, was damaged. Garda Niall Maguire says they are still working to establish if the recent spate of break-ins at churches in the county are linked. A derelict property in Rafo has been ransacked and vandalised after being broken into twice within a week. The business premises at Meeting House Street was entered on Friday, May the 24th, and on Saturday morning last through a side wooden door. Graffiti was sprayed on the walls inside the licensed premises and some fire extinguishers set off. The property was ransacked during the second break-in. Penalty points for speeding and using a mobile phone should be doubled right away. The Irish Road Victims Association is backing a bid by the Road Safety Authority for emergency laws to increase points from 3 to 6 per offence. 80 people have been killed on the roads so far this year, while 137 people were detected driving under the influence over the bank holiday weekend. And Donegal is to receive €900,000 as part of a €16.1 million national investment announced today by the Minister for Rural and Community Development, Heather Humphreys, for outdoor recreation projects. €500,000 is going towards the upgrade and completion of the Muckish Railway Walk, and €200,000 for a 2-kilometre recreational walking path and associated amenities at Millside Walk, Fintown. The remaining €200,000 is to improve and enhance the recreational amenity and associated historic cultural heritage of the former McManus estate in Rosslyngon. Those are the latest headlines. We'll be back with an update again at 12 noon.
E-scooters are the latest to join us on Irish roads. That means some new rules. E-scooters should follow the same rules as bicycles and be treated with the same care. E-scooters are for 16s and over. They cannot carry goods or passengers and are not permitted on footpaths. E-scooters must travel at 20 kilometres per hour or less. These new rules are in place now. For the full set of rules, visit rsa.ie. A message from the Road Safety Authority.
And you're welcome back to the 9 till noon show here on Highland Radio. Now, people are being encouraged to write an advance healthcare directive to safeguard their wishes should they become seriously ill. Research from Safeguarding Ireland found only 23% of people know what an advance healthcare directive is, with just 4% of people already having one in place. So we're going to go to Zoom and we're going to have a discussion with Patricia Rickard-Clark, who is a Safeguarding Ireland chairperson. Patricia, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Donal.
And thanks indeed for joining us. And I suppose that really, Patricia, the first question is, what is an advance healthcare directive?
Well, it's a statement you make when you have decision-making capacity to come into effect when you may lack capacity in the future. And it's writing down your wishes with regard to consent to treatment or refusal to treatment. So really important, when we go to a clinic or a doctor, they need our consent. So if we lack the capacity to give that consent, it's really important, therefore, that we plan in advance and we identify our wishes in that regard.
In the event that someone hasn't given an indication as to their wishes, does it then fall on the next of kin to make a decision effectively on their behalf, or does it fall to the medical professional?
No, absolutely not. And this is where there's a lot of confusion. And when you go into a hospital, you're asked who your next of kin is. But actually, your next of kin is the contact person, but they have no authority to give that consent, which is really important. Now, we've had recent legislation. When I say recent, it was enacted. The Assisted Decision Making Capacity Act was enacted in 2015, but it was not commenced until April of 2023 last year. And that sets out a framework for making an advance healthcare directive. So this is where we're at now, where actually our culture has to change. We have to comply with the legislation. So in the past, we were quite lax. We did ask next of kin to consent at various times, but they have no legal authority to do so. So now that people are aware, and indeed healthcare professionals must comply with your wishes as well, contained in an advance healthcare directive. Also, some people have made what is called an enduring power of attorney, and more people would be aware of an enduring power of attorney. Again, it's planning in advance in relation to your finances and your property and affairs, but it does not include healthcare decisions. And we've had that legislation since 1996, but it's been updated under the 2015 Act. But really important, our healthcare decisions is about our consent, protecting our wishes and making sure that the decisions that are taken are in line with our wishes rather than somebody deciding. And you asked what happens, does next of kin? Well, what happens if we haven't an advance healthcare directive and our next of kin has no authority to do so? Well, then the medical profession, healthcare professions will work to the HSE safeguarding policy. But in many instances, actually, it may be quite a critical decision to be made, in which case it's an application to court, or in fact, there may be disagreement as what is the appropriate treatment or whatever, in which case it might end up in court. And also, when it arrives in court, it can be very stressful on everybody, including healthcare professionals. They really want your consent and they want to know what your wishes are. So really, really important.
Is there a template that can be used to determine this? Because, I mean, I suppose there are issues that we don't foresee, and we don't foresee ourselves being in a situation where, for instance, we may end up in a coma on life support, and we may have, you know, sort of said in passing conversations with our spouses or our significant others or our partners, as the case may be, we may have given a verbal sort of, I don't want to be kept alive on a machine for months and months and months and months on end. I mean, number one, does that count? Or number two, does it need to be a signed document? And is there a template we can use to actually make it clearer?
Yes, first of all, there are a couple of templates. One, again, the new organisation that was set up under the Assisted Decision Making Capacity Act is an organisation called the Decision Support Service. It has oversight over the various arrangements under the Act that are made. So you can get a template from www.decisionsupportservice.ie, or indeed the Irish Hospice Foundation has a Think Ahead plan, which one can download, and that's on www.thinkahead.ie. Now, in addition to that, a number of people felt that it would be too expensive to make, nearly a third of people felt it would be expensive to make an advanced healthcare directive. It costs nothing. You do not need legal advice. You do not need medical advice, although obviously it's preferable if you have a chronic illness or whatever, then that you actually get advice on that if you're drafting your statement. Another couple of points is that obviously healthcare professionals will take into account if they hear what your wishes were. But in many cases, if there are 2 or 3 family members, they're all in disagreement as to what your wishes might be or whatever. So it's really, really important you articulate your wishes. Now, also, you don't have to appoint anybody to make those decisions on your behalf. You can simply record what your wishes are. Obviously, as you said, you may not know in the future what your particular illness is or what consent is required for, and therefore, again, the Act provides that you can, if you wish, you can appoint what the Act describes as a designated healthcare representative. And you can appoint that person. And again, it would be very worthwhile to talk to that person from time to time, name them as your designated healthcare representative. They're the person, that's the person that you're giving legal authority to consent or refuse treatment, but also that you update and you can have that continuous conversation. And it may arrive at the time when you actually have that particular illness or whatever, you're able to then talk to that person and communicate. You appoint one person under your statement, your directive, but you can, in the event that that person is unable to act or has died or predeceased you, then you can appoint an alternative. But it's one person that you're giving that authority to.
And that person is the person that will make the decision, because as you said, if, for instance, a parent gives that power to one of their children, even if the others disagree, then that one does carry the responsibility and have that authority.
Has that authority, and it is to that person that the healthcare professional will look to for that consent or whatever. Also, it's important when you make your directive that you give it to the people who need to know. So you might give it to your GP, or if you're under treatment, you might give it to a consultant, or also give it to your family members who know who you've appointed, if you've appointed somebody, or know what your wishes are, or anybody else you feel. Again, it's important to say that in appointing that designated healthcare representative, it doesn't have to be a family member. Even if you have family members, it can be a very good friend. Really important, it's a person you trust that will carry out your wishes. And as we all know in families, people may disagree with what your views are on certain things. We've all different beliefs and values. So it's really important you're appointing somebody who will carry out your wishes.
And it doesn't have to be an official legal document. You can write this yourself on a piece of paper on your own PC at home, sign it and then fold it and have it on a shelf and it can be taken out and used if necessary.
Yes, and to have it signed and witnessed. Now, there's provision for signing if you have to do it by assisted technology or whatever. There are, again, on the decision support website, there are extremely important guidance documents, both codes of practice. So there are guidance and codes for the person making the directive, for the person who may be appointed as the decision-making representative, and very importantly, for healthcare professionals, so they understand whether it's valid and whatever. And again, the legislation provides, you can't just say, I refuse any treatment at any time. That wouldn't be irrelevant or valid. You need to identify the circumstances and the particular treatment you're refusing. Also, your directive you can set out where you wish to receive your care, your allergies to medication, all of that, all extremely helpful to those who are interacting with you at a time when you're unable to make those decisions for yourself.
Patricia Rickard-Clark, it's certainly a very, very important issue, and we should all, and I certainly shall be doing this sooner rather than later, we should all be sitting down and just looking into these questions. Look online, look at the various assistance that's there online in terms of what the potential scenarios are. Come to your decision and get your signature on a piece of paper witnessed, and be ready so that in the event, and may it never happen, but in the event that it does, that then your wishes are clear. But for now, Patricia Rickard-Clark, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Donal, for having me.
Patricia Rickard-Clark there, who is the chairperson of Safeguarding Ireland, and very interesting food for thought indeed. Thank you very much indeed, Patricia. Now let's go to a couple of your comments before we go for a break. A caller says, we're here outside Letterkenny. I was heading on a day trip to Mallinhead one morning. We got as far as Fort Dunree and never got any further. We've back so many times since. It's just amazing. However, I would say, look, do go on up to Mallinhead, because all those beaches right up through to Mallinhead, amazing. Go to the whole of Inishowen, go to the Gap of Mamore, do that whole drive around Carn, Clonmany, then come back. Oh, it's great. I love Inishowen. The famine graveyard on the high road sign on the high road was removed a while back and was to be located to the Old Lake graveyard, which was one of two graveyards used during the famine. The workhouse opened on the same year as the famine broke out, so says a caller. Another caller says, I agree with standing up for Palestinians on a humanitarian level, but we need to be careful that we don't annoy Israel or America, as it will cost us economically with all the business they have in Ireland. You can't bite the hand that feeds you. I'm not sure that not biting the hand that feeds you can extend to unequivocal and acceptance of that hand's actions with no consequence. And I'm not quite sure. I can see the point you're making, caller, certainly, but I think maybe there comes a time when things have to be considered beyond not biting the hand that feeds you. But it's very much a personal decision for each person. Just to let you know, by the way, on next Saturday here on Highland Radio, we'll be obsessing over the competition and cutthroat of politics and local election counts, and we'll be spending the weekend at that. If you'd rather a different type of competition, Ballymacool Residents Committee are holding a night at the races at the clubhouse in St Eunan's GAA Club. That starts at 8 on Saturday, so that'll be just down the road from the Ard, where all the other action is going to be taking place. So if you fancy just a little break from the candidates and you want to go for a night with the horses instead, night at the races taking place, Ballymacool Residents Association in the clubhouse in St Eunan's, and that's starting at 8 on Saturday evening next. Of course, with regards to the rents going up on houses, it's because of the big money the government is paying landlords to house foreigners and asylum seekers. This has happened in my area, where rent has doubled from €600 to €1,200 per month, so says a caller. And another caller says, the Lagan area, which includes Newton Cunningham, ends just before Callahan's motorway store, Bohilly and Burt, where Inishowen, which Burt and now Inishowen, what I'm led to believe that Inishowen was incorporated into Donegal, and it was no longer an island when work reclamation land was completed. So it is a very interesting question indeed. Where exactly does Inishowen start? Let's have that discussion. Another caller says, the ancient boundaries of Inishowen ran from the Barnesmore Gap to Mallinhead in the 1500s and 1600s. The Swilly was a boundary. Ballabafay and Rafo were included in Inishowen historically. On Green and Avalia was used by Niall of the Nine Hostages to see all four counties. Now that's an interesting one. So Ballabafay and Rafo potentially in Inishowen. That really makes it very interesting indeed. 18 minutes past 11. We'll take a short break.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio.
The 9 to Noon Show with Drumhallow House Rathmullen wedding open day this Sunday from 12 to 4 p.m. with complete wedding setup, including champagne reception, live music and an opportunity to meet the team to discuss your special day.
Find the sunshine at McElhenny's and Ballybuffet. Shop in store and discover thousands of discounted lines with at least 20% off. Purchase any eligible discounted product with the sunshine on it to be in with a chance of winning a holiday worth €1,500 in collaboration with Atlantic Travel Letterkenny. Don't miss out. Visit us in store at McElhenny's Ballybuffet and find your sunshine.
Listen up. Drivers in Sligo. Bus Éireann are hiring D-licensed drivers in your county. Start your journey with Ireland's most customer-centred, sustainable transport company. Come to our driver recruitment open evening in the Great Northern Hotel Bundoran on Tuesday the 11th of June from 5 p.m. until 8 p.m. to learn more.
In 30 seconds, we want to let you know that the 242 Opel Open Road event is now on. We're going to use half of the time to suggest you explore Opel's extensive award-winning range. Half of the time to tell you you'll get 3 years free servicing. Then, we've nothing else to talk about. In fact, the percentage of our time we're going to talk about finance offers, that would be 0%. Find out more about our 242 offers at Heron Auto Opel. See heronopel.ie for details.
Discover the ultimate gastropub experience at Sister Sarah's in Letterkenny. Treat yourself to their irresistible menu featuring grill night on Thursdays and Sarah's all-new barbecue Fridays. Plus, enjoy live sports daily, live music on weekends and private function rooms for your special occasions. Sister Sarah's Letterkenny, serving food you'll love from Wednesday through to Sunday.
Connect Hearing is open for free hearing tests. Our audiologist is available Monday to Friday for wax removal services at our Letterkenny clinic in the Courtyard Shopping Centre. We also offer a home visit for those who aren't able to visit us. Our hearing is our social sense. Are you finding hearing more of a challenge? Call Ursula today on 07491 13296 to make an appointment. Good hearing helps us to connect to our family, friends and loved ones. Connect Hearing, connecting you to life.
For new perspectives and a fresh vision, join me, Greg Hughes, on the 9 till Noon Show every Thursday at 10:15 for your voice, your community.
9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio. Have you any questions about what's happening in the garden? Are you looking for some advice, looking for some perspective as to where we are at the moment in terms of what to do in the garden? Well, you're in the right place because we're joined in studio by Paul McLaughlin. Paul is a gardener at the Balladurg Garden Centre, not far from us here on the mountaintop in Letterkenny. Paul, you're very, very welcome indeed.
Thank you, Donal.
Paul, weather at the moment, it's sort of weird. It's gorgeous one minute, it's the next minute, then it's gorgeous again. I mean, it can't seem to make up its mind.
No, there's been no sort of consistency to it at all. And looking at the forecast for this week, I think it's to be much of the same. So it is now, to be honest. But it's a pity at the minute. Like, this is a time of you should be sort of out the bank holiday weekend, should be out enjoying the garden and that. But it's not been sort of consistently warm enough that you can actually take time. But we'll have to hope for better.
Now, traditionally, the weather gets really, really good as soon as the exams start. Yes. The exams are starting tomorrow, so it might pick up once the poor students are in.
Yes, exactly. The leaving cert just there's always that week up, the cramming beginning on that the weather's perfect. So it is.
Now, we are getting a bit of, as we said, we're getting a bit of rain, but this is always a good time, I suppose, to be checking the water in your pots and just to be keeping an eye on their nutrition.
Yeah, pretty much. See, most people at this stage have nearly their bedding plants and their pots and hanging baskets done up already. So now's a good time to just be keep an eye on the actual maintenance of them, I suppose. Basically, water is the single most important thing. Once you have them watered, you're actually pretty much they'll look after themselves. So just be very careful if you look out today and it's raining a bit. It could be raining from, say, the back of the house.
Yeah.
The front of the house isn't getting it. So just be mindful and get into the habit of checking every evening.
Yeah. And usually best to water morning or evening, because if you water in the middle of the day, you're not going to get the full effect.
Exactly. A lot of time with evaporation, the water can just evaporate off almost immediately. And there are also, in real heat, there's a danger of actually scorching the leaves of the plant if you actually water them in the middle of the day.
Yeah, and how about you get the various biomixes and the liquid feeds that you can give your plant? I mean, as you say, water is the most important thing, but I'm sure there's no harm in putting in those various biofeeds as well.
Exactly. The fertilizers, you get the liquid fertilizers, you want a lot out of your plants, so it's important to put a lot into them, basically.
Yeah.
So probably the two main products people traditionally, gardeners always use tomato food for it. And now people have gone over more to the miracle grow sort of aspect of things. If you're using tomato food, it's important just to put it onto the soil. Don't put it over the plant because it can actually scorch the plant a wee bit. Whereas the sort of more proper fertilizers, they're the miracle grow that you can dump it over the whole plant.
Yeah. Any other checks and things we should be doing at the moment in terms of maintenance, in terms of just getting to the optimum point for the summer?
Yes, pretty much. It's important to keep deadhead in your flowers as you go along too. That's sort of the process of removing the flower, a flower that has sort of gone over and is sort of fading backwards. 2 reasons for that. Number one, by removing the flower, you're actually encouraging the plant to produce another flower. And if you actually don't remove it, a lot of the time the sort of spent petals can fall down and can cause mold and stuff within the plant. So it's a good idea just for general housekeeping to kind of remove the flowers as a day off.
I suppose also always be keeping an eye out for pests, for diseases, for various wrong markings, and I suppose after a while in the garden you sort of get to know what the wrong markings, what the wrong look is. You develop that second sense.
And to be honest, if you get into the habit of sort of checking them for water every evening, you're actually sort of developing a relationship with them, and by doing that you're actually spotting problems as they arise. If you sort of don't spot a problem for a week, it can become a big problem. Whereas if you see it just on the day it happens or whatever, it's easier rectified.
Let's talk briefly about cats, because we get a lot of sort of cats coming into gardens and people trying to keep cats out. And is there anything they can do? I mean, my experience of cats is cats go where they goddamn want to and you can do nothing about it.
Pretty much. Funny, it's one of the biggest things you get asked about in a garden centre is how do you keep cats off, basically. And there is no easy way. You can get products now that sort of they're based on essential oils. You can spray about apparently that cats don't like. But generally the most reliable way is everybody knows cats don't like water.
Yeah.
So if you're in the garden for a while, if you get yourself something like a water pistol or anything, squirt water, and it's a matter of with cats, it's a matter of breaking the habit. If they sort of associate a place with a bad experience like getting wet or anything, it's a good idea to actually just, if you can keep that and break the habit with them, hopefully we'll go somewhere else.
Right. Let's take a couple of the questions that have been coming in. First one, caller's asking, how can I make a dead hedge come back?
I suppose definition of dead, is it dead in patches or is it actually dead if you know what I mean? A lot of the problem with sort of conifer hedges like the old Lelandis, that if you picture a Christmas tree, you cut the Christmas tree and it's still green 6 months later. A lot of the time with sort of conifer hedges, if you notice that it's dead, it's actually been dead a long time, so there probably is very little you can do for it. If it's sort of dead in patches, generally feed them, especially something like even with the miracle grow for a short-term boost, might encourage them to come back. Or if you have a healthy bit of the hedge, maybe it's an idea to take some cuttings off it, try and grow them and then sort of replace the dead bit. But to be honest, take photos, go to your local garden centre and they'd be able to advise basically on what's the best course of action.
Caller asking, how do you make grass come along in a new built house? It's still very mucky and patchy in some places, and you see this quite a bit. A new house is up and trying to get the lawn right, trying to get the garden right, and it's not coming up as consistently as they'd like.
Yes, I suppose the thing is just a good high quality fertiliser. Someone, if you want to establish it quite early, good with someone's fairly high in nitrogen. Sort of that's the 3 numbers in fertiliser, just the last one, if it's fairly high, would be quite good. And basically, if maybe someone may have happened to maybe with shower rain, some of the grass could washed off certain patches, or even birds sort of come down and feasted on it a wee bit. So after after sort of 14, 21 days, it should be sort of up fairly consistently. So if there is bare patches, maybe think of overseeding them again.
Yeah. And if you want to do a plant hedge around the perimeter of your garden, what are the best plants to use that will last all year?
Best plants to use, our most common one by a mile would be a thing called Grisselinia, which is a wee lime green leaf, it's a wee hedging plant, quite slow growing, easy maintained. But it's sort of, hedges go very much with fashion.
Yeah.
So Grisselinia is very much in fashion at the minute. It used to be the sort of old conifer hedges. Now people sort of they're more aware of the biodiversity and stuff. They're going for sort of mixed native hedges.
Yeah.
So I'd say anybody thinking about that there is, don't rush into it. Actually drive around, or even walk around the town, see what hedge you see that looks nice, take photos of it, bring it to your local garden centre and say, what's this? And just they'll be able to advise on whether it would suit your site or not.
Just don't ask me what hedges are. I don't have a clue. They're hedges, as far as I'm concerned. A caller asking, how can I kill off leader weeds in the middle of my roses but not harm the roses? Now, and I'm sure this is the question you're going to get 10 times a day.
Yes, absolutely. A few options for it. Generally, probably the most reliable thing about it is, especially among the roses, get yourself a pair of gloves and just physically remove them, which is a lot of work.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. Selective weed killers, that sort of thing would be, it's dodgy using them around established plants, if you know what I mean. If you're very careful, you could chance it, but they're always a risk. So the most reliable thing would be just get the gloves on you.
Yeah. How often should you water an aloe vera plant?
Aloe vera they're sort of native to more like, I suppose, almost down to the equator sort
Yeah.
of thing, if you know what I mean. So not very often. Generally in a house, I'd be chatting maybe 2 to 3 weeks around that.
What fruit is best to grow during the summer?
Fruit, suppose there are plenty of options that'll grow around here quite consistently. For bigger fruit trees, probably chatting late summer, you have apples, plums, cherries would all grow quite well. Pears, very easy to grow, quite hard to get to ripen. We just don't seem to have the heat for them, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But in terms of for summer fruits, there, strawberries very easy to grow, raspberries particularly easy to grow. So they are, and you have your gooseberries, blackcurrants, red currants.
And presumably you have to take space into account as well. I mean, if you're going to sow an apple tree, it's going to take a long time. They're going to be big roots. You're going to have to make sure you have the space for an apple tree or a pear tree or whatever. Whereas the strawberries, raspberries, etc., it's going to take up a lot less space. So I suppose too, you got to sort of cater for your actual garden size.
Exactly, because even strawberries, that you can just a window box. You can actually, or even a hanging basket, you can get loads, if you know what I mean. But there are all sorts of interesting sort of berries out at the minute that wouldn't have been traditional. You have stuff, tay berries, loganberries, stuff like that. Like a lot of garden centres we carry in now, and it's just that wee bit different that you just wouldn't see in shops. So if you're growing something, it's nice to grow something kind of interesting, if you know what I mean.
And I suppose you can new tastes to try out at the end of the summer as well.
Yeah.
Caller says, I've been trying to grow Irish wildflower seed bombs. I've buried them and planted them. It hasn't worked.
Yes, seed bombs are it's a concept that has come out in the last few years. They're basically a ball of clay with seeds incorporated into it. The idea is you just throw them around the garden. They sort of naturally break down with the rain, and then your seeds are there basically. I have tried them myself with, I was going to say limited success, but with no success.
Yeah.
Pretty much so. So it's just a concept. It doesn't seem to be working that well.
Yeah.
But maybe it's just my bad luck, if you know what I mean.
Is it one of these things which worked elsewhere but just isn't going to work in our climate, or could it even be a Donegal thing? I even noticed I travel down south towards Waterford fairly regularly, and you can clearly see in terms of fields, in terms of the wider environment, the difference in the land and the soil between north and the south. I mean, could this be a function of that? Maybe it's going to work down south, but it won't necessarily work up here.
Quite possibly. Because even if you see even farmers like cutting silage, that generally down, say, Waterford, that'll be cutting 6 weeks before we would.
Yeah.
So it's just different climate conditions, I suppose.
Yeah. Is it too late to pot summer plants now?
It's not too late now, but you'd want to be at it in the next sort of week or so, just for availability's sake, if you know what I mean. But no, we still would have a fair selection of stuff down there, right? And I'm sure most garden centres would have.
Yeah. Another caller asking, how do you get rid of weeds? We go back to the roses question, I suppose, and get the gloves on and get onto your knees and start pulling.
Yeah, pretty much, right? So it is. You can get their like organic weed killers you can make, sort of based on sort of salts and vinegars and stuff like that. It's just it affects the acidity of the soil.
Yeah, and obviously it's also going to compromise if there's flowering plants around that area. It's potentially going to compromise those as well.
Yes.
A caller asking, and this is this I would be honest, this is the sort of question I would be asking. What shrubs would you recommend with an orange flower?
With an orange flower, there are a few options there. Azaleas would be, if you're actually looking around the town at the minute, there are loads of orange flowering azaleas out.
Yeah.
Would be there. They'd be very good, what I call it. Azaleas, you have sort of early colour, you're going from more or less late April until now.
Yeah.
Be quite good. They're one, I think it's, I can't think of it. Mock orange would be Philadelphus, I think it is.
Yeah.
Would be quite good for orange flowering. But now there are a few options there. So there are a lot of sort of yellows verging into orange, if you know what I mean. Sort of even get the two good on in the one thing.
And again, a caller going back now to the question of hedges, and we did touch on this earlier. I have a lot of brown patches on my hedge. What's causing that?
Once again, could be a number of issues, if you know what I mean. Probably the most reliable thing would be just photograph it, take it to your local garden centre, and they might. Generally, water tends to be the problem, either too much or too little.
Yeah.
So it can be if it's within the thing. So or even sometimes it can be a patch of worse soil. Maybe someone even as simple as adding a wee bit of extra fertilizer to that part may bring it on.
And I suppose too, the sooner you notice there's an issue, the sooner you tackle it, because as you were saying earlier, sometimes it's going to be dead a lot sooner than it looks dead, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, will part of a hedge die away completely with other parts being alive, or if the rest of the hedge is flowering and there's some parts are brown or discoloured, can they be saved?
Sometimes it can be. Generally depends what's wrong, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be just even as simple as physical damage. Somebody had a bit of a lawnmower or something like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like I say, the best thing is just take a few photos and go and get advice as best we can. Just.
Paul, thanks very much indeed.
Thank you very much.
Garden from the Balladurg Garden Centre just down the road from us. Expert advice as always. Paul, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Donal.
Okie dokie.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com.
Dreaming of an exclusive country house wedding with stunning views? Then pay a visit to the Wedding Open Day at Drumhalla House, Rathmullen this Sunday from 12 to 4 p.m. Drumhalla House, sponsors of today's show.
At Vodafone, we know this is the age of new. New trends, new ideas, new tech. But don't forget the not so new, like that old smartphone tucked away in a drawer. That smartphone is really e-waste. But trade it in with Vodafone and we'll recycle and repurpose it. And even put some money back in your pocket. In with the old. Search Vodafone Trade-In or go in store today. Vodafone. Together we can.
Trade-in eligibility criteria apply. For full terms, see vodafone.ie/terms.
Don't miss Glenswilly GAA Bingo this Wednesday, 5th of June at 8:30. There's 3 chances of winning €500. All other houses €100 and all lines €40. With spot prizes on the night. That's this Wednesday, 5th at Glenswilly GAA Hall.
Go from shopping in Aldi's frozen food aisle to chilling at Electric Picnic. Because Aldi is giving away Electric Picnic tickets and €2,000 in gift cards every single week. Spend over €25 in-store and upload your receipt on aldifest.ie to enter. Then you could go from your local store to the Electric Picnic dance floor. Republic of Ireland and 18 plus only. Ends August 4th. Excludes alcohol, prizes and full T's and C's at aldifest.ie.
Hi, Paddy here at Shane Conley Cars in Donegal Town. Are you looking to upgrade your car? With Shane Conley Cars, you'll find makes and models for every budget. Great finance options, and we also accept trade-ins. Check out shaneconleycars.com or call in to us at Shane Conley Cars from Lonaher Road, Donegal Town.
Coming this year to Dublin for the very first time. 71 shows completely sold out. Hamilton at the Bord Gáis Energy Theatre. Experience the revolutionary musical that's taken the world by storm. Witness history come alive with electrifying performances and unforgettable music with a modern twist. Book your place now on the outlet at highlandradio.com or call us on 074 91 25,000.
The 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. We're into the final 25 minutes of the show and it's flown as always. Now, joined on the line by Tom, who wants to talk about the Columkill Camino. So many people from the region go over to Spain to do the walk, the Camino there, and there are so many different Caminos. But Tom believes that there is a huge potential to have a similar Camino here and to promote it. And we don't have to be going anywhere next or near Spain to be doing it. Tom, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Donal. How are you getting on?
Very well indeed. Thank you, Tom. Tom, there's been a lot of talk about the Columkill Camino and to do a pilgrimage walk in this area linked in with Columkill and the sites with which he is associated. And you've just done the Camino North Trail, had 3 days on it. And you believe Donegal does have that potential?
Yeah, well, I wasn't so much rang on about the Columkill Trail as such. I think it's been developed, and I think it's a huge thing, potential for Donegal. It's just, I came back, we did the Northern Trail of the Camino, we did 3 days walking, that's all suited us, and I was just so impressed with what they had over there. And what I took home from it is we have equal potential to do a similar thing here, and what was I going to say? As I say, there's a huge market for it. When we were over there, it was all Dutch and it was Americans, Irish, English, those walkers. Now the northern section is a lot quieter than the French one. The French one and the Portuguese may be busier. Yeah. But even having said that much, it was a lot busier than what I see. I'm from the Fanad area, but I just think Donegal as a whole, from Inishowen, Fanad, Downings, all the way down to Ard O'Donnell, all that area is just huge potential. And we take from what I've seen over there as it's not a huge, what the Spanish government or the council or whatever over there, they're not out of fortune on it, because what I've seen is they have, now in fairness, they have established trails. These pilgrimage trails are over 1,000 years old, some of them maybe more, and they all lead to
Santiago de Compostela.
Santiago.
Yeah.
So we did 3 days. We started off in Irun and we went away to with the 3 stages, it's all marked out. The first walk was 26 kilometres, the second was 24. Now, my take on it is we don't have to copy their model, but what we have is the same potential. And what I take from it here is that a lot of their section, some of their walks, you actually go along the main road. It's not a busy road, but it's what we would call a regional road. But some of the regional road walks were equally as nice as the bits that were across the forestry or along the coast. A lot of them were just through farmland. You know what we have in Donegal, we borings through country areas, and I'm chatting specifically about Fannis. We also have open hull areas in Donegal, again, which we can tie into. But, you know, as what I do a bit of running myself or a bit of cycling, but like you take Donegal or around our area in the summer, the hedges are so overgrown, the verges. If the council had a programme just for the tourist season of maintaining those to allow walkers to come into our area, they don't have to spend millions doing this, you know, strum them, cut them back. Like there's briars that will take the eye out if you're heading a lot of our country roads. Even you can't even stand on for cars. You know, simple stuff that could be done just for that season to promote tourism and say then, but you have to start small. We'll have to start with what we have. And I just believe we have the raw material, we have the hulls, we have the beaches, we have the borings. You have to link everything in. And then, as I said earlier in my text, we have the developing Columkill Trail, we have the Slave League trails. But what I took from it and the Camino is, I mean, a lot of what they did was just a simple yellow spray arrow, so you couldn't get lost. But as I say, it's ideal for walkers and all that there. We already have the Wild Atlantic Way, but
now the other thing they do have, the other thing they do have on the Camino trails, as I understand it. Now I've not done it in any way, shape or form, but I have several friends who have, and my understanding is that they've developed a network of hostels along the way that specifically cater for Camino walkers. And that they also have, in some cases, if you wish, you can carry your own bags, but if you wish, you can have your bags transported from hostel A to hostel B, and then you walk to where your bags are waiting for you. But then so there is a whole infrastructure in terms of hospitals, in terms of porterage, in terms of support services that would sort of need to be developed here if we were to be realistic competitors.
Well, what we have started off is we have the natural terrain, we have the raw material.
Oh, totally.
So we have to work with that. We don't have to go mad. It's the thing you have to build. But I mean, what I took from it is the trails are, and it's as simple as they didn't put fancy, costly markers. They did in some places, but in most cases just a yellow spray. And to avoid you going up a road, they put an X to stop you going off the trail, or maybe you go onto private ground or something. You know, and the verges were all cut that you were along the main road. The hedges were all cut. And as I say, we have a lot of, you know, what I noticed out there as well, it's tied in with agri-tourism, so you could be out in a kind of remote farmland area and you just come on a wee coffee shop that's built around a wee farm or something out there, kind of stuff. So it's something that we could tie in to, you know, agri-tourism here, but it would take, you know, it needs to come from the top where it's promoted and all that there.
Yeah.
But I just think, even from, you know, walking through country roads and borings, and we have our beaches, and if they could obviously develop cross-country routes, but you have to work with the farmer there. They have to have an agreement with the farmer, maybe make it financially worthwhile for the farmer, same as they do for Corn Creek projects and all that, you know, as a tourism. Because what I take it as, it's not just a summer market, there's a walking market out there that we could tap into all year. I mean, I remember founded in the 80s, those Germans coming over here to learn English or, you know, or Irish, whatever. In the summer of the 80s and 90s, that whole market just disappeared. And we had a vibrant B&B industry back in the 80s as well, which is gone as well. Now, you know, what I think about this walking market is local houses could provide a room. You know, you could set up some kind of wee thing. I just like, I suppose you come back from these things and you're very enthusiastic.
It's a wonderful idea. It absolutely is a wonderful idea, Tom.
Huge, yeah. Potential's huge.
Sadly, we won't necessarily have the same weather all year round that they will have on the walks, you know, on the Caminos heading towards Santiago.
Lucky,
But I mean, in terms of, certainly, there is the scenery is here, as you say. The raw materials are very much here. We've been speaking this morning about Inishowen as well, and some wonderful scenery, wonderful walks right across Donegal. And as you say, there are airports in Derry, there's an airport in Knock, there's an airport in West Donegal, in Carrickfinn, Donegal International Airport there. So we have the various structures in terms of airports. We have bus links. And most importantly, we have stunning scenery that won't be beaten. So yeah, it's absolute food for thought, Tom, and thanks very much indeed for the call.
No bother.
Yep,
okay,
Tom,
thanks for
food for thought, and hopefully people are listening. Thank you very much indeed. That's Tom there.
No bother.
Developing the Columkill Camino. Let's take a look at a few of the texts that have been coming in and some of your comments. I thought e-scooters were banned on footpaths. So far this morning, I've seen 2 in my town, both being driven by over 16-year-olds who should have more sense. Or are Garda not patrolling this problem? Now, the new regulations are coming into force. They're going to take some time, I suppose, to bed in. But yes, absolutely, e-scooters and laws relating to them are coming into effect. Caller says, we were talking about at the start of the programme about Sentry Hill in Letterkenny. Caller says the name Sentry Hill relates only to the penal times in Letterkenny in that area. There is documented proof to support that the idea of a British soldier sentry in the area is not common knowledge or indeed folklore in the area. The old Letterkenny Castle was an early military post overlooking the town, but that wasn't on Sentry Hill, so says a caller. Protesting is not an absolute right. Read the small print. It is subject to law and order. Now, what we're saying, could you announce that mistakes could be made following an observation made recently? The polling card is now the same size as some of the election leaflets. A person could make a mistake and discard their card. That may happen, and I agree, actually, there are election leaflets coming through that are the same size and shape as the polling card, but in really, the polling card's always been the shape it is. And there is an old rumour that if blue pen used on the card at the ballot box, the vote is void. Could this be found out? It can be found out. We made this request before, and the answer is no. A blue pen on your ballot paper does not void the ballot paper. You may write with whatever you want to write with. The reason pencils are used is that pencils will not run out of ink. If you have your own pen, by all means, use your own pen if that's your choice. You'll hear rumours that pencils are used so that a squad of people can rub them out and then remark the paper in the way they want it marked. Papers are under Garda supervision and Garda guard from the moment the polls close until the moment the count centre opens. They are sealed and under Garda supervision. No one can tamper with ballot papers in that regard. You may write with what you wish. If you have a pen in your pocket, by all means, use the pen that's in your pocket. That will not, and we did ask this question before for exactly that reason. The question came through to us. The answer is no. Your vote will not be compromised if you use a blue pen. We're going to be speaking to a very important former member of Donegal County Council after this short break.
Drumhallah House, Rathmullen, wedding open day this Sunday, 12 to 4 p.m. Experience once-in-a-lifetime luxury and beautiful surroundings at Drumhallah House, proud sponsors of today's show.
The Highland Radio Hoolie to Salou is getting closer. Join me, David James, and a host of Ireland's top artists for a week of fun in the sun. Staying for 7 nights in the stunning 4-star Sol Costa Jurado Hotel with non-stop entertainment morning, noon and night. But hurry, we only have a limited number of places available. Don't miss out on the holiday of a lifetime this September. To book, call Country Music Tours on 074 91 19 955. We'll see you in Salou.
Friday is polling day in the European and local elections and in the Limerick mayoral election, so make sure you're ready to vote. Polling stations are open from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. and don't forget your ID. Your vote is your voice. So be a voter on Friday. From An Comisiún Tábháin, Ireland's independent electoral commission.
The Woodbury Grill Bar and Restaurant Arena 7, a family favourite in Letterkenny. Great menu choices with a warm welcome for all. You've got to visit the Woodbury Grill Bar and Restaurant. Check out arena7.ie for more information.
It's time to visit Ireland's newest Lexus dealership, Lexus Letterkenny. With 50 years of experience, you can trust us in this new era of electrification. Experience our all-electrified range, including the stunning ES Hybrid Saloon and our award-winning range of plug-in hybrid SUVs. And view our finance offers, including the all-new LBX. Start your 2-for-1 journey with Lexus Letterkenny Port Road. Lexus. Experience amazing.
The Virgin Media Playhouse is open, and it's red hot. Get 1 gig superfast reliable broadband for just €45 a month for 12 months with no activation fee. Add streaming TV for €15 a month, and we'll add the gift of an Xbox Series S. Play away with 1 gig broadband and TV for €60 a month. Switch at virginmedia.ie. Virgin Media, it's playtime.
T's and C's apply. See virginmedia.ie, subject to location and availability. New customers only, 12-month contract. €60 a month for 12 months, €114 thereafter. Offer ends 5th of June 2024.
Highland Radio weather updates brought to you by McElhenny's. Support a local Donegal business with McElhenny's. From fashion to home essentials, find everything you need for any occasion. Shop McElhinney's Ballybuffet for quality you can trust.
And Mid-Éireann tell us to expect some sunshine with a scattering of showers today. Some of those showers heavy, particularly in northern parts. Cooler than recently, top temperatures of 12 to 15 degrees Celsius. Feeling even cooler as westerly winds veer northwesterly with the clearance of rain and increasing moderate to fresh, occasionally gusty. Tonight, clear spells with some scattered showers. A cold night for early summer. Lowest temperatures just 3 to 7 degrees Celsius. Winds easing mostly light to moderate, westerly or variable. A little fresher along the north coast. Tomorrow, Wednesday, cool, bright with sunshine and scattered showers. Top temperatures 11 to 15 degrees Celsius. Light to moderate westerly winds. Fresher in northwestern and northern coastal parts. Now, over the past couple of days, as the final meeting of Donegal County Council took place in Lifford toward the end of May, there's been a lot of discussion about the number of women on Donegal County Council and seeking re-election to Donegal County Council and seeking election to Donegal County Council with calls for more female representation. I started covering political and council meetings in Donegal in 1990. From recollection, which may be flawed, and if my recollection is flawed, please do forgive me. On Donegal County Council, there was 2 women. They were Maureen Doohan of Fine Gael and Mary Coughlin of Fianna Fáil. On Letterkenny Urban District Council, there were no women. And on Buncrana Urban District Council, there were 3 women. They would have been Breach Boner, Sinead McLaughlin and Anne Gill. And again, if I have left anybody out or forgotten anybody, I do apologise, and please do forgive me. The first woman elected to Donegal County Council was elected in 1979. And that was Susan McMonigal. And Susan joins me on the line. Susan, good morning.
Hello, Donal. How are you? And thank you very much for having me on your programme.
I'm very well, and it's a pleasure to speak to you. Now, I just missed you, Susan. As I said, I started covering Donegal County Council in 1990. You weren't on council at that point, but you were the very first woman elected. Tell me of your election.
Yeah, I was, excuse me, I was the first woman ever elected to Donegal County Council, and if I can recollect properly, I was also told at the time that I was the youngest person ever elected to Donegal County Council and the youngest woman ever elected to a county council in Ireland at the time. Now, I was told that, but I maybe sometime later you might be able to get some of your researchers to research that and see if that's actually true, but I believe it to be true.
What age were you, if you don't mind me asking?
I was 24. And you talk about the reporters that would be at, you came in 1990, the reporters would be out there, to report on the meetings. I actually would have had an awful lot more in common with them through my age than I would have had with the other councillors who were quite a lot older than I was. So when we went for lunch or whatever, I would often join Paddy Walsh and different ones like that, Michael McGinley, for lunch, because I had more really in common with them than I would have had with the other local councillors and at the time,
Which area were you in, Susan? Which of the electoral areas?
Letterkenny electoral area, and I represented the Blaney group, Independent Fianna Fáil Republican Party, And
And
so, it was a very interesting time, It was a very interesting time, quite exciting, but quite harrowing in many ways as well. It was a very, very big challenge for someone who'd never been in that type of a forum before, But I think I managed it pretty well, I found that they couldn't, the other male councillors, they couldn't figure me out really properly because, I suppose being a woman, I had a different mindset from them, They could all get together and chat about football and all things that men chat about. And of course there is that difference between men and women where they have different interests and different things to talk about. So it wasn't a social gathering, let's say, for me, it was more a work type thing, But then I was very fond of quite a lot of them, as well, and became very friendly over the years with more particularly the older members of the council. People like Paddy Hart and Mick Melly from Ballyshannon and, people like that, gentlemen, ones like that weren't,
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at the newspaper story at the time, and it's like, at last, exclamation mark. a woman on the council. Susan McGonigal of Ballybofey will make history as Donegal's first lady councillor when she takes her seat among the other 27 males at the first meeting of the new council on Thursday. As you say, it was daunting, but you held your own.
Yes. I don't know. I learned that I could hold my own in any discussion or dispute, and I think also the other members underestimated me greatly when I was elected. Initially, they thought I was just a little girl that they could push around, and maybe they were glad to see me there because they could manage to manipulate me in some way. But I suppose maybe I just had a mind of my own, and that wasn't really going to happen, So.
Now, I mean, the Blaney organisation at that point in time was legendary in terms of its structure and the tallies and the voting machine and the campaigning machine and so on and so forth. So to have that machine behind you, I'm sure, was no harm that you will have had that backup support right from the start.
Yes, yes and no, because in the area that I lived in Ballybofey, Blaney didn't have a great number of, there weren't a lot of people in this Corley Cantor or as commons there, and that's really, I assume, the reason that I was put up for election was to widen the base, which was a good move at the time, to widen the voting base that would be for our party. So I was really selected not to be elected, but to gather up second preference
get transfers,
for another running candidate. Now, the Blaney machine was incredible in the way that they operated the second preference votes. And, of course, this all came from Neil Blaney having been Director of Elections for Fianna Fáil for the whole country at different times. And he was a master of that. You had to give him credit for that because he was absolutely fabulous at it, as was Harry. Harry Blaney, his older brother. And Harry was absolutely a fabulous worker on the council and could manage to coerce people into voting with him from different political parties and stuff like that. So I would give great credit to Harry Blaney for the amount of work that he did.
It's always Harry was on council when I started. Obviously, Harry was on. an independent Fianna Fáil had a large presence on Donegal County Council. You had people there as well, like there was so many independent Fianna Fáils. I mean, Eddie O'Donnell, whose wife and son both subsequently became councillors after Eddie's sad passing. People like Paddy Kelly and Inishowen. I mean, there was quite a few very strong independent Fianna Fáil people on the council at the time. And it was always suggested to me that Neil was the famous one in Dublin, but Harry was the worker in Donegal.
Harry was the one that held it all together, really. And Harry was the one that was in communication with the people, because Neil wasn't in the county that much, being, one time an MEP and a TD at one time. So, he would have been away in Europe. And then, of course, he lived in Dublin. So that was,
and Susan,
he would be down at weekends,
Yeah, the way things stand at the moment, Susan, because of sad deaths and because of resignations, at the last meeting in Lifford, there were 2 female members of Donegal County Council, one of whom is seeking re-election. And you're sad that there is still such a small level of female representation on Donegal County Council.
Well, if you look at that, that's basically 7.2%, of the elected representatives are female, and I am absolutely incredulous about that. It's just, you look at other areas where there's 35%. I mean, why has Donegal not want their women to represent them? Or why do the political parties not put the women forward to be their representatives? Is it uncomfortable for women to be in politics now? Is it too daunting? I mean, I really just don't get it, because very often women are certainly equal, but in many respects would be far superior in that they have a different way. They're more like housekeepers, in the sense of housekeeper for the county, that the money is properly apportioned out to the different areas and to the different causes that are necessary. And I'm not saying that men are not good at that, but I think women are better at that particular thing. Of course, men are better at a lot of more things as well, but Yeah, it's very, very disappointing. You know, there aren't the issues there that there would have been in my time, so there's not. I don't see what's holding them back.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, Susan, time has beaten us. We have headlines to do and we have to hand over to John. But listen, thanks very much indeed for speaking to us today. Certainly food for thought to bear in mind. And when people go to their ballot papers, I know every electoral area does have women on the ballot paper, and that's something for candidates to bear in mind as they approach their voting preferences on Friday. But for the moment, Susan, thanks very much indeed for speaking to us. It's been a pleasure, and thank you for sharing your story.
Yeah, and thank you for having me on.
Thank you, Susan.
Okay.
It's been a pleasure. That's Susan McMonagle there. And that's it for today's 9 till noon show. John Breslin is up next around the Northwest. Thanks to all our contributors. Thanks especially to you, of course, for listening. And thanks to Shannon and especially for Caroline for producing and, as always, keeping me right. Up next, as I say, from John Breslin. He's around the Northwest. But right now, for myself, Donal Kavanagh, have a very good day.
The 9 to noon show with Drumhala House Rathmullen, home to the most idyllic wedding setting with picture-perfect views. Wedding open day this Sunday from 12 to 4 p.m.
Join us